Attention all shoppers.
Our supermarket shelves are full of unhealthy food. It's often hard for me to know which foods are good for my family. The information on packaged food is complicated and hard to understand. I wish we had easy-to-understand warning labels on foods high in salt, sugar, and saturated fat. We have the right to know what's in our food. Support front-of-package warning labels on unhealthy packaged foods. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa, to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, we'll talk about Fani Masemola in just a moment, but before that, it's back, and it's even more spectacular than ever. Join us as we reopen the doors to South Africa's most iconic lifestyle show, from breathtaking homes and world-class travel to the people shaping culture and success. This is where it all comes together. So mark your calendar. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3. That's Thursday, the 30th of April. That's next week at 7 p.m. You can also stream it live on SABC Plus, right? Top Billing is back on S3. Open up.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so the National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola, of all people, appearing before the Pretoria Magistrates Court today, and the state has requested the court to postpone so that Masemola appear alongside Vusi Cat Matlala on the 13th of May. That will happen. In the meantime, just the principle of the National Police Commissioner himself being in the dock is quite remarkable. Later on, we'll chat to Ian Cameron, who wants the National Police Commissioner suspended. We'll talk to him just now. But first up, we're going to chat to Dr. Chris de Kock, who's an independent crime expert, former head of the Crime Information Analysis Center. Dr. de Kock, welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse.
Welcome. Good afternoon to you and the listeners.
Much appreciate your time. Right. In fact, let's first start by playing this clip of the National Police Commissioner, because he spoke to reporters in court after his relatively brief experience, or appearance in this case.
I don't want to discuss my discussion with the president in public, so leave it for him and me, and we'll take it from there.
Are you staying in the position?
Well, I'm saying leave it for between me and the president and see how.
Is the work continuing, General?
Well, you know, the police force, the police service must continue doing their work. They must do work. As I said, it's the beginning. We have discovered a lot of organized crime in the country, and it's the beginning. We should continue. The work is just at the beginning.
So you still continue to lead the Madlanga task team at this point?
Maybe let's also rectify it. It's not the Madlanga task team, because now people end up having the perception that the judge is investigating people, he's arresting them, and he's adjudicating them. It's wrong. It is a sub-task team on commission. It's not the Madlanga task team. It's a sub-task team on commission, and the judge is nowhere involved in the investigation, is nowhere involved in the arrest. So let's separate those matters.
Now that you've officially been charged, General, what's your message to the police service members? Because you are South Africa's top cop and you are now in the dock. What do you say to your fellow members of the South African Police Service?
They must remain committed and do the work. Yes, I might be being dragged closer to serious criminals, which I don't know them, but they must stay positive, serve the people of South Africa, look forward. I know that I am not guilty, I am not wrong, but of course the trial must still take its course. And all I'm saying is Stay focused. Don't be diverted. Stay focused. Continue doing the work.
South Africans are
We have come to a close where we know what is the root cause and who's behind organized crime in South Africa, and we are dealing with
Do you
it.
believe you've
And
been
let's
targeted,
continue pushing in that direction.
That is the voice of the National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola, who appeared in court today. Right, reaction then. Later on, we'll chat to Ian Cameron, but for now, Dr. Chris de Kock. Firstly, Dr. de Kock, what do you make? I mean, of the symbolism around a National Police Commissioner. Yes, he's claimed his innocence, but actually having to appear in court.
No, that's bad. It's bad, especially for serious allegations. Look, it's not a Schedule 5 allegation, and the charge sheet will change, as they've said. That's why they also shift the date to in May. But it is serious that it is under the Public Finance Management Act. And he, as the Chief Accounting Officer, is actually, it says something that he haven't done what he should have done. And it is serious. A National Commission, it's not the first time that South Africa experienced this. I mean, we have experienced this since General Salebi. Or Commissioner Salebi in about 15 years or more ago, more. And then we've experienced it with various acting national commissioners, and we have seen many senior officers, lieutenant generals, all of them, and major generals standing in court for sometimes much more, even much more serious charges and allegations.
So yes, I mean, you can't pronounce him guilty or not guilty. Let that play out. But what do you make of the charges against him?
Look, the charges, it seems, all relate to the fact that maybe he did not properly look at the business of the Chief Financial Officer and all the officers associated with that office of the Chief Financial Officer. Those 14, 15 people who appeared in court a few weeks ago and who's going to appear with him in court and with Mr. Kat Malala. And it's all about that tender fraud or the tenders of the, Medicare 24. The 317 million tender. It was awarded and then it was withdrawn. And in the process, I think about 50 or 40 million rand were lost somewhere there.
Now, we know at this point in time, we know that he's pleaded, at the moment he's saying he's not guilty. Maybe that's not surprising. What are your thoughts around, these various grey areas? Because also when he appears in court, in effect, he'll be side by side by someone like Kat Malala. And, it just says so much, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't heard your question clearly.
Oh, I was saying, just in terms of optics of how it comes across that a National Police Commissioner may well appear on the 13th of May alongside Kat Malala. Just those type of optics alone, without even getting into the details, meaning how is it possible that people who are police, law enforcers, are in close proximity to others who are outrightly breaking the law in terms of how it's been alleged? Yeah.
Yeah, look, we have seen in the Madlanga Commission and in the ad hoc committee, which is now finished with their business, we have seen that there's other officers in the South African Police Service, the Deputy National Commissioner, according to allegations. These are still all allegations and counter-allegations. But, there were other officers which were much closer to the underworld, to Mr. Kat Malala and it seems, as General Mangwanazi called them, the Big Five. So it seems there are close ties between some police officers and people who are allegedly part of organized crime. I think General Masemola is actually where he is today and where he will be in court together with this underworld figure. He's actually there as a result of his position as Chief Financial Officer. You see, he's the head of the police, so anything that goes wrong with tenders, with acquisitions, with money and money lost, he is, in the end, he is the responsible person. It's not maybe that he was, that he deliberately and intentionally moved very close to these figures because he got money from them. I don't think that is the case, but we will see. In court we will see, because all these others who were arrested will also give evidence. And in the end, it may very well be not what we see today.
But
we will have to see how the thing will unfold.
Yeah.
And but I at this point in time, I would say I don't think the National Commissioner, General Masemola, did it deliberately or intentionally, and that he received money like some other, according to allegations at least, some other police officers.
Now, do you think, there's been a call in some quarters that now that he's appeared in court, he should be suspended? Yes, no?
That I feel is in the hands of the acting minister. It would be, for me to say he should be suspended, maybe. He should be suspended immediately. But, there are so many police officers on suspension at the present moment. I don't know where the leadership is going to be found in the meantime to run this organization, which are in a very, very big fight with organized crime, which is our main threat at the present moment, but also with other crime, like violent crime, just ordinary violent crime.
Just lastly, the impact this then has on the morale of two groups, the public as well as members of the police service.
Look, on the public side, I think for the last 6 months with the Matlanga Commission and with the ad hoc committee, but that's not that I say it should not happen. It is a good thing that all of these have happened, and it's very public. It's transmitted all the time to the public, and many members of the public are keenly interested in what is happening at Matlanga, and they are listening. But I think, it clearly makes a difference to what the public think of the police, and I think it really undermines the people's acceptance of the police. But on the other hand, the public also see some good things of the police at their station level. Sometimes they see good things. I hear often on radio and on TV where people praise the police and say, no, they were very quick to react. And so I think that the public is they will make up their own mind that there is some good police officers, and not all of them are.
I just want to
and
go.
Then on the side of the police itself, well, it undermines the morale of the lower ranks.
It certainly does. Let's leave it at that. We'll get further reaction on that in just a moment. Dr. Chris de Kock, thanks for your time. Dr. de Kock is the former head of the Crime Information Analysis Centre. But we'll talk now to Ian Cameron right after this.
This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all, under the theme Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAFM will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
By the way, later on, not in just after 3:30 thereabouts, we'll talk about the state of human rights around the world. So looking forward to that conversation. In the meantime, let's continue the chat regarding Fani Masemola, the National Police Commissioner, with your reaction. And there are people saying he should step aside. But let's talk now to Ian Cameron, who certainly has strong views in terms of what needs to be happen to be happening next. Ian Cameron is the Police Portfolio Committee chairperson, right? So, Ian, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, yes, the National Commissioner appearing in court today. You're very clear you want him suspended.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I must make it very clear that a suspension does not mean that General Masemola is guilty. But I think for institutional integrity to somehow be protected, or what's left of it after what we've seen over the past just less than a year, I think it would be very important, and to make sure that you bring in an acting national commissioner that is not contaminated in any way by the Madlanga Commission or even the ad hoc committee.
All right. Having said that, you believe then there's sufficient grounds against the National Police Commissioner for him to, be suspended. Tell me, give me your sense of your thinking here around it.
Well, first of all, the fact that he is now criminally charged for PFMA contraventions or alleged contraventions. I hear people, constantly saying, yeah, but it's not corruption. That's not the point. The point is, whether it's corruption or something else, if we've got a national commissioner being charged in that way, we need to allow due process and the rule of law to reign supreme. We can't have any form of potential interference or anything that might influence negatively the integrity of such an investigation. So that's the first part. The second part is that, he is now I don't know how manyth national commissioner that is somehow implicated in some kind of corruption, alleged corruption, alleged criminal offense. Over the past 2 decades, we've seen numerous of these types of allegations, and I think it's critical that for just once there's definitive action taken to let us move forward on some kind of solid ground.
I note as well that not only are you concerned about his suspension, calling for his suspension, you're also concerned about the position, what seems to be a flux regarding the former minister, Senzo Mchunu. Tell me about that.
Well, let me sketch the scenario for you. So over the past, let's say, 10 months, we have seen that the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, has been placed on leave. We've got an acting minister. All of our deputy national commissioners have somehow been implicated in some or other wrongdoing over the past 10 months, whether connected to each other or not. Every single one, from General Sabia to the others, and now our national commissioner as well. Just imagine what impact this had. I heard what Christa Cox said before me on the morale of members on the ground. I mean, there's nothing stable about this picture. We've got acting people acting for acting people. We've even had Minister Gwede Mantashe be the acting police minister just a few months ago. It really doesn't create a picture of a stable police service that is able to adequately serve and protect as they are meant and mandated to.
I mean, perhaps the broader question, in the light of what you're saying, that we've had previous police commissioners who've gone down the same route. What does it say, about vetting processes, perhaps, but also more importantly about just the ethics and the morality of people in high positions? Because that doesn't need vetting. That really needs being very clear about what they do and how they go about doing their work.
Yeah, spot on. No, you're 100% right. I think, look, there's an integrity management crisis. I had a good laugh with a colleague of mine recently said, no, we must make sure that the police have body cameras to make sure that they don't do things wrong. And I also want police to wear body cams, whether for their own benefit or that of the public. But the long and the short of it is there's an integrity management issue. The camera is not the solution. We have to solve the integrity issue. We need to go back to the root cause. And over the years, SAPS, and especially SAPS command structure, has been diluted because of political interference. And if we go back to Jackie Selebi, Ria Piecha, Komotso Paglane, even Bheki Cele when he was the national commissioner, and so the list goes on. It was one scandal after the other. And I believe there's a significant vetting issue, lifestyle audit issue. We speak about it year after year after year, and we don't see any resolve. The SIU, I know that General Masemola himself did meet with the SIU at the end of 2025 to look into the SIU being able to assist with lifestyle audits. And according to me, unfortunately, that has not happened yet. And one more very important example on what you just said is, there are many people that are appointed in positions without not only being vetted properly, but also that they don't have security clearance for those specific positions. There are many senior officers and generals in the South African Police Service at the moment who serve in positions that should have security clearance, but they simply don't.
What about, you talked about political interference. I mean, just explain why you say that, just that we understand what you're talking about.
So I think Jackie Celebi gave birth to this. He was a serving member of the ANC's NEC at the time when he became the National Commissioner. So he really could have a direct political influence and take the party out of it, regardless of that. The point is that he was a serving political authority or dignitary at that time. And he was then placed in a position of extreme power, becoming the National Commissioner. And we saw how that turned out. He ended up closing disbanding a large majority of our specialized units, and we're still paying the price for that. We look at Ria Piecha, for example, also not a career police member. She was appointed. She awarded herself, I think, a 10-year service medal after hardly 2 years, awarded herself a FIFA World Cup medal, amalgamation medal, and so the list goes on. And again, we saw how that turned out. So, political appointments in the South African Police Service has really broken the let's call it the foundation of the South African Police Service. And really muddied the waters for disciplinary action. We saw this past weekend how a suspended provincial commissioner also did a press conference now. There's a certain precedent that's now coming out that people can, I would almost like to say that, to a certain extent, go rogue and everyone can just speak on their own accord because the structures that are in place are clearly not functioning the way that they should.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, the points you made are noted, particularly with regard to the impact, therefore, that it has on morale, because we now begin to question just about everything. So you may wonder about there's a series of so-called political appointments that you refer to. Now, here's the bottom line to it at the end. How it's all unraveled now. How do we fix it? We've had the ad hoc committee, we've had the Madlanga Commission, all that undergoing right now. But what are the steps that you feel needs to be taken to get to a position where in a few years' time we'll be talking about policing in South Africa and giving it a thumbs up across the board?
So first of all, I'd literally go into an integrity and lifestyle audit process with the top 30 in the South African Police Service. So that's to say the divisional commissioners, their deputies, provincial commissioners, their deputies, and obviously the National Commissioner's Office. Obviously, here and there where there are significant red flags, you can do the same. But if we've cleared the integrity management process there, and we can say that we are just over 90% correct in what we have found out with the lifestyle audit process and remove those that shouldn't be there, then the rest can siphon through down to the bottom. This would obviously include the DPCI as well. If we do that, and we've got some kind of an integrated strategy with the MPA to ensure that organized crime specifically, and more specifically so where police are involved, it can be fast-tracked and, be investigated through prosecution-led investigations, I'm promising you things must turn around. It simply has to. All of this would include, crime intelligence, etc. But the long and the short is if we don't tackle the integrity management process, nothing else can change. We can have all the plans, strategies, technology we want. We need to fix the integrity crisis.
We need to fix the integrity crisis. That's a quote. Much appreciate your time, Ian Cameron, the Police Portfolio Committee Chairperson. Ian Cameron, talking to us about, the state of policing in the light of now the appearance of the National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola at the Pretoria Magistrates Court today. Ian, appreciate your time. Let's get the news headlines. It's just gone 3:30. Here's on Dela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the SIU has frozen 17 immovable properties worth 76.5 million rand and 7 luxury cars in suspected Eskom-related corruption. The National Prosecuting Authority in Gauteng says it has decided not to proceed with the case against a 58-year-old man who was arrested in connection with a deadly road rage shooting in Marentia, Johannesburg. And a British former top official has said the Prime Minister's office had a dismissive attitude towards the vetting of Peter Mandelson, who was appointed UK ambassador to Washington, but later had to resign over his links to American sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Sumi, our very own Minister of Sport. You want to talk about Mamelodi Sundowns and their league championship aspirations. Sumi, do I have you there? She does want to talk about championship aspirations of Sundowns, I can assure you of that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we are. Go ahead, Sumi.
Well, yeah, we are talking about football. Mamelodi Sundowns, to be exact. They return to Betway Premiership action tonight with little room to breathe in a packed run of fixtures. They host Stellenbosch FC at Loftus Versfeld Stadium, knowing that a win could take them back to the top, with Orlando Pirates just behind, but with a game in hand for the Brazilians. Now, despite a 10-match winning streak, defender Keegan Johannes has urged focus after recent continental success. And there's good news too, with Grant Kakana and Aubrey Mudiba back in the squad just in time for a tricky test against a disciplined Stellenbosch side. Here's Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso.
Let's hope with open hearts that we're here for the difference and for the similarities, and not deal with the people that can speak. It's not important. I have social media. Yes, I do. Do I follow blogs? No, I don't. So I try to avoid as much as possible noise that can twist my mind. And my people the same. If there's something important, the press officer from the club will tell me, or my assistant coaches will tell me. Whatever is beyond that or on the side, I don't relate to it. I always try to see is if my son is okay, if my wife is okay, my papa and mama are okay. Because if they are okay, I'm good. And I can manage and I can go forward.
Meanwhile, as we know, Wolves have been relegated, and next season they'll be back in the EFL Championship after their place in the Premier League slipped away. Their fate was sealed when West Ham United and Crystal Palace played out to a goalless draw yesterday, leaving Wolves with no way back. It's been a tough season. So far, they have 17 points from 33 games, confirming their lowest points total of the Premier League era. And it means that after 8 years in the top flight, it's a big fall for them. But in terms of that relegation zone, it's still crowded. Burnley and Tottenham Hotspur remain under pressure, with the relegation fight heading for a dramatic finish. In terms of rugby, Springbok centre Lukhanyo Am says that South Africa's policy of selecting overseas-based players has been crucial to the Springboks' sustained success. He added that combining local talent with overseas experience has built squad depth and eased financial strain on SA Rugby. Now, also praised Japan's shorter season for extending careers, with stars like Peter Steph du Toit and Malcolm Marx benefiting from longer off seasons, and fellow Boks Ruan Norkia and also Kurtley Arendse are going to join ARM in Japan next season. In athletics, Usain Bolt says that rising Australian sprint star Gout must build a strong support team to stay focused and avoid distractions as his profile grows. Now, Gout is already being compared to the Jamaican legend, with many in Australia tipping him as a future Olympic champion ahead of the 2032 Brisbane Olympics. The teenager, whose family roots is in South Sudan, is set for a major test when he makes his Diamond League debut in Oslo on the 10th of June in the 200 meters, and he'll face a strong field including Olympic champion Tebogo Letsile. Now, in the meantime, Rory McIlroy and Lando Norris have both been recognized at the Laureus World Sports Awards in Madrid. This is after landmark achievements in 2025. McIlroy won the Comeback of the Year award. This is following his long-awaited Masters triumph, completing the career Grand Slam, while Norris claimed breakthrough of the year after winning his maiden Formula One world champion. Tennis star Carlos Alcaraz and Aryna Sabalenka were named Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year, with Paris Saint-Germain taking Team of the Year. In terms of tennis, Carlos Alcaraz says that he's waiting results of crucial wrist tests before deciding whether he can defend his French Open title next month. The world number 2 picked up the injury in the Barcelona Open earlier this month and has already withdrawn from both Barcelona and Madrid after scans revealed the problem was more serious than first thought. Now, Alcaraz told Spanish TV that he's trying to be patient and will only decide his next steps once further tests are completed. And in golf, the PGA Tour will stage no events in Hawaii for the first time in 63 years. This is after drought conditions forced the cancellation of this year's season opening Century Tournament. The Plantation course was unable to resolve a water rights dispute with no alternative venue found, and the season began instead with the Sony Open, and that event may now move to the Champions Tour, while Century Insurance sponsorship could transfer to Torrey Pines in San Diego. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Tumi. Yeah, it's certainly a case of, Sundowns have aspirations, so does Orlando Pirates, and then others in other leagues around the world. Good time to be following football.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, keep those voice notes to around 30 seconds. It really helps. Here's comments from you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I actually agree with Ian Cameron that the commissioner should be suspended, and then him being suspended doesn't necessarily translate it to be him being guilty. It's for the good of the integrity of the institution. It's as clear as that. It's so easy. It does not necessarily mean that he's guilty. He must just step aside and until the process is finished, and then he will come back when he's acquitted. I'm Joe in the Western Cape.
Thank you. I mean, many people believe that no matter what, as I think was said very, very clearly, nobody's saying he's guilty, but just the fact that it's him and he's in court and in the position that he holds, can he remain in that position for now?
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful Winelands. If there are tangible evidence against Fani Masemola, then obviously he needs to be suspended. But then again, I am a chief supporter, and having Bobby Matong's name mentioned in a bribe, man, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't want to be aligned with a team who has a corrupt manager. Have a good job, bye.
So what you're going to do about it with regard to you and the Amakosi? Who's the chief and who's the boss? Isn't it? That's the big question. Here's a question about Mkhunu.
Hi there, Ashraf. Is the former minister Mchunu still receiving his salary as a suspended minister of police? I just want to know if it is true that he's still receiving the money. I think really it is unfair. He can't be receiving the money for so long while he's suspended. Thanks, Mike in Mutsi.
There are rules around suspension as opposed to being axed. But yeah, you can be suspended for a long, long time and then still receive a salary. It doesn't sound very fair, isn't it? But I hear you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your SAFM listeners. This is Luz in the Eastern Cape. Mine is just a quick one, a clarity-seeking question. And I must say, I'm speaking under correction. Wasn't it not that Begitele was dismissed for work for the very same reasons that Fani Masemola is currently in court for now, the issues related to PFMA. Thanks.
Okay, we'll follow up on that one there. Was it the same thing? How similar would it have been if that were the case? Right, what we'll do, in fact, we're going to talk just now about the state of human rights, not just in South Africa, but around the world, right? With via an Amnesty International report. But to get us there, there's a development 5 years ago. There was a fire at a building at UCT, the Jagger Libraries. We'll find out what's happened since, right after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, bring the calls coming. Always love your reaction. You can send us voice notes, call in live when we open the lines, or you can tweet as well, or post on our Facebook page. Just tag me as well, so I will find it. Right, the University of Cape Town commemorates the 5th anniversary of a fire that impacted the Jagger Libraries and other campus buildings on the 18th of April, right? So, what does this mean in terms of what happened then and where we are now, and why the need to commemorate this anniversary? With me is Nikki Crowster, the UCT Libraries Director for Information or Info Systems and Resources. Nikki, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Hello there. Good afternoon to you and to the listeners. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. So, I mean, we're talking about the 18th of April 2021, so the five-year mark has actually passed. But take us back. What happened then? Wow.
On the 18th of April, a runaway fire that started, the origin of which remains unknown, started on Table Mountain, and due to a confluence of events that included changing winds, part of UCT, not just UCT libraries, but buildings at UCT went down or were severely affected by the fire. In our case, the Jagger Library, Reading Room, and African Studies Library was completely gutted at a street level. What we discovered after the firefighters had put in tremendous effort to douse the fire was that materials at a interstreet level and below street level had survived the fire, albeit that it was severely damaged by water and in part by the consequences of the fire, such as soot. We extracted 13,000 crates of material in a very short time, 17 actual working days, consecutive working days, all in all about 45 days before we called the salvage to an end. And from that time, approximately May 2021 to date, we have been involved in the recovery phase of this disaster management project. We have recovered about 100,000 items of published material, which includes rare books. Part of the audiovisual collection has been digitized, and many primary collections, manuscripts, amongst others, and photographs have been recovered. We sent 1 ton of goods to Europe to be freeze-dried and needs to be made shelf-ready, being tremendously affected by mold. And recovery continues locally in various areas of library services.
And now, I mean, in terms of various areas, what's the state now of the library? Because obviously, as you said, it's not just a library, but others too. But when the fire occurred, it would have had an impact in terms of resources and access to material, right?
It did. Undoubtedly it did. We lost approximately 90,000 published items, some and unique African film collection, which is irretrievable. Some African material, which was unique across the continent, was sourced across the continent, cannot be found again because those small publishers, would no longer be in existence. However, we have received with global outpouring of support, not only money, but also materials. Where possible, we are rebuilding those collections. When you talk about a library, it's an interesting concept because it means different things to different people. And people equate the Jagger building with a library, and that is not the case. The Jagger building has deep emotional ties to all of us. I too was an undergraduate and spent my time studying in that particular building. But UCT Libraries as a complex and as a service still continues And as we recover, we make those primary and research materials from our published collections, from our rare books, from our African collection. As we are able to retrieve these and rebuild the collection, we are making these services available. And our research support services, albeit within the constraints of the devastation of the fire, has started up and continues.
Go ahead, continue.
Simply, I was going to go because the next question and the question that we continuously faced with is, what about the building?
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump back to you because I bet you it's on your list.
Well, go ahead. What about the building?
There is a wonderful quotation that I'd like to share with you. But before I do that, I want to speak about the commemoration itself. At present, and we invite everyone to participate in this, we have three key components. We have an outdoor installation. Firstly, we have a historic outdoor exhibition which celebrates the spirit of the volunteers. We had over 2,500 volunteers all in all who came and assisted us with the extraction and also in part with the recovery, not only through physical work but through the generous sharing of their knowledge and their expertise. And we celebrated that in an external exhibition which we have remounted. We also have an outdoor installation which is a recounting of the tent at the time of the salvage, and within the tent, we also have artifacts. We also have the story of the triage and the actions that we effected at the time of the fire. And then we have a main exhibition of the Jagger ruin right now through the vestibule, up the staircase into the main reading room, which is covered with all sorts of artifacts of the fire, burnt out indications, also displays curated by our special collection staff, which speaks to the devastation of the fire, but also which speaks to the spirit of the opportunity in loss theme, which is absolutely important.
Okay, I mean,
but what I want to speak to you about...
Yeah, go ahead. Last thing.
What I want to speak to you about is in that particular exhibition, and we invite everybody to join us. You need to sign up. 2 tours per day, maximum of 20 persons per day, so 40 persons per day. Please come and have a look at what we experienced, what we have done, and what we plan to do. But what I want to share with you is the following quotation by a friend of the Jagger Library. It said, "The juxtaposition of a problematic history, the beauty of the structure, and its progressive contents was in itself thought-provoking, and that is the space that we're navigating. South Africa, by our very nature, we have a complex history. We have tremendous beauty. The Jagger Library and Reading Room was a tremendously beautiful building, albeit problematic in that it reflected colonial architecture at the time. So there are various camps who believe that the building should or should not be built in particular ways, whether or not it celebrates culture and heritage. And the question we ask ourselves is, whose culture and whose heritage is it? So how do we navigate this space? And this is what we have been focusing on in the rebuild of the Jagger, to make sure that every voice is heard in a coherent fashion so that we deliver a service that is future-proof in a building that is welcoming to everyone and which responds to present day and future day.
Okay.
Designed for an academic library.
All right. You've got us all interested in terms of what happened then, where we are now, what has been lost, what has been regained. And what he basically says is, hey, even for myself, if I get to UCT, I need to come and check the place out and see where the Jagger Library is now and the state of it. So, Nikki Crowster, thanks for that. You've set the scene. Appreciate your time. The UCT Library's Director for Info Systems and Resources. Check it out, the Jagger Library. Your own experience, if you are there, what was the loss like then? What's it like now? What has been the experience for you personally? This is the National Pulse.
Kathy Mutlatana on the National Briefing.
Clippies, tell us about the meetings you had with her where she was raising questions about corruption in the municipality.
The fact of the matter is she was aware of things that were done wrong. Definitely so. And as far as my knowledge leads me, she did report it to the Hawks. She did make a case against of intimidation at SAPS. So this is a woman that died for standing up for what is right. And this is what a lot of people in the Vaal has been doing for a long time. This is the conduct in Mfuleni.
Lipis Kritzinger, CEO of the Vaal Business Corporation.
This is Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
There's not a day that goes by without us talking about human rights and human wrongs, right? What then is the state of, human rights, not in South Africa, but around the world? So Amnesty International has released its annual report titled The State of the World's Human Rights. Now, the report assesses national, regional, global developments across a whole range of themes. Let's find out more about it with Genevieve Quintal, the Amnesty International South Africa Media and Communications Officer. Genevieve, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. This has certainly piqued my interest. So, first of all, let's start with that. This State of the World's Human Rights report, in this case, is it an annual thing?
Yes, this is an annual thing that Amnesty International does every year, and it assesses the human rights situation in 144 countries. These are the countries that Amnesty is working in. So we've been tracking over the years, and it's always the previous year. So this report is 2025, and we've been doing this for I don't even know how many years. I think since the 60s, 70s.
Okay,
we've been doing this kind
now,
of
look,
work.
I mean, being Amnesty, it's pretty obvious why Amnesty would drive the process. It makes complete sense to me. Perhaps the more significant question would be when these reports are, published or revealed or downloaded in this case here. What happens next? I mean, what do the different regions? What do they say? How do they respond to it?
So we are a evidence gathering organization, and we are a campaigning organization, and we do lobbying and advocacy. So with our reports like this, Ashraf, we've got a call, we've got a call to civil society, to normal people. This is like a clarion call to people. Look at what's happening in this world. For your listeners who haven't seen the report, it's quite a scary one. We're saying the world is on the brink of a perilous new era, driven by powerful states, corporations, anti-rights movements that are trying to break down multilateralism, international law, human rights. And if we turn our back on this, if we don't say something, if we don't talk about it, if we don't have other states standing up to those who are doing wrong, if we don't have civil society standing up, if we don't have people standing up, we are going to land up in what we call a pre-1948 scenario, and that being before we had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, before we had mechanisms like the UN. Not to say that the UN and that is perfect. We know a lot of reform needs, but right now it's in terms of international human rights, international law, and accountability on an international stage. Those are the mechanisms that we have. So we're asking people to not turn a blind eye. Don't allow these what we call predatory states, these powerful states who are using their power to try to dismantle these institutions. Don't allow them to do it.
Let's then talk about what's come through this time around. I mean, let's start obviously with the country we're in right now, South Africa. What does it say about South Africa?
South Africa, we pretty much, Ashraf, it's probably quite similar to what we've seen the last few years, and maybe a little more concerning this time around because of what we're seeing at the Madlanga Commission. So, we know South Africa's got this amazing constitution, policies, legislations. You and I have spoken about this. Things that have a strong commitment to human rights, but we are failing. Our government is failing in implementation, lack of accountability, corruption, and this all affects the delivery of services. One of our major issues, and something we speak about often and in nearly all our reports, is the high levels of gender-based violence, the high murder rate. And at a time where we're hearing these really concerning allegations of political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system, specifically the SA Police Service. On top of that, we have the threats against human rights defenders, what we call human rights defenders. These are whistleblowers. These are the lawyers, the accountants, the people who are standing up, who are doing something to try combat corruption in this country. And we are seeing them being targeted and being killed. And this is despite organizations such as Amnesty International and others in South Africa really calling for legislation to protect these human rights defenders. And when we wrote the report, we didn't yet have the updated bill on the for whistleblowers, which we, as we all know, a few weeks ago came out. We welcome that, but a lot more needs to be done. And then just lastly, to go to basic services, right? We see how water outages have persisted nationwide. Amnesty International put out a report last year on people living in informal settlements, how they are disproportionately affected by flooding while still lacking access to quality housing, basic services. And then there's issues of pit toilets in schools. These are it sounds like there's a lot, Ashraf, but these are like the main issues that we have raised in the South African sector.
Interesting that the points you bring up, because often when we talk about human rights, people often tend to sort of navigate down to, freedom of expression and the right to vote and the right to express yourself. And yet the examples you've given, in many ways, is tied up with living a better life for all, around service delivery, and that being a human right, being a recipient of sound service delivery in your community, and the absence of that effectively being a denial of human rights.
Absolutely. Dignity. Dignity is a human right, Ashraf. And how are people supposed to live with dignity if they don't have access to water, sanitation, adequate housing? Basic services are human rights. We've spoken about water before. The access to water, it's not a privilege, it's a right. These are all these things that I've mentioned are rights that are actually enshrined in our own constitution. And yes, we always speak about them in terms of, like you said, services, and a lot of the time during elections on a political level. But all of this is tied to everyone's human rights and what you, as a human, the dignity you deserve and the dignity you deserve to live in.
Okay, so fine. So then, having gone across these various indices with South Africa, do you then give that country a specific, scorecard rating?
No, we don't. This is more of an analysis of each country, coupled and at the beginning of the report, there's a global analysis, what's happening globally, and then we do regional analysis, but we don't do a scoring to it. This is an analysis of each country, but we don't say, this country is a 2 out of 10 or whatever.
Yeah. Compare it to other countries then. Maybe we can't do it all, but maybe one or two significant countries in Africa and around the world.
So I think there's a trend across, right? If you look at what's happening globally, the lack of accountability, which is something we see here, something we're seeing in the region, the erosion of rights, mechanisms and protections, and then something that we don't quite see in South Africa is the cost of conflicts on civilians. We see this quite a bit in Africa, Sudan. When our Secretary General did a press briefing and someone actually asked her, why is no one talking about Sudan? People are talking about Sudan, but we need to talk about it more, right? And then we have, but the lack of accountability is such a big one. And we're seeing also this rise in authoritarianism, this closing down of civil space, the closing down of protests. I think protest is a good example. We have a history of protests in this country, as we know. It's maybe not as bad as in other countries, but we've seen the heavy-handedness of police in this country when it comes to protests. We saw what happened in Kenya last year with the protests. We've seen the Gen Z protests in other regions of the world and the crackdown on these protesters. That closing of that space really fits into this closing down, this closing down of even the freedom of expression, and is really our concern that the world is going into that, and a lot of countries are going to this authoritarian type of government, which is what we don't want to see, and why we're calling on those states who should and can and at times, like South Africa, do speak up, to speak up more, to stand up to the bullies who are trying to break down the world order and push us into this type of authoritarianism.
Okay. And I take it, the report is quite in-depth. It is available publicly, right? People can access it, yeah?
Absolutely. It's on our website, amnesty.org.za. There's everything's there. You can read up on any country of our 144, get the global analysis. It's all there.
I'm definitely going to do all of that. And you can tag SAFM Radio and do tag me as well, Ashraf Garda. I'll certainly share that on our social media platforms. Genevieve Quintal, thanks for your time. Amnesty International South Africa's Media and Communications Officer. Would you like to read the State of the World's Human Rights report in this case? Would you? Yes, no. Of course you'd say yes. Let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, SIU to freeze tens of millions of rands in assets in Eskom scam, and NPA drops case of Emmarentia road rage. For SFM News, I'm Ondelambana, and a very good afternoon. The Special Investigating Unit has secured a court order to freeze tens of millions of rands in luxury assets linked to a multi-million rand Eskom procurement scam. In a statement, the SIU says it had successfully frozen 17 immovable properties and 7 luxury vehicles with a combined value of 76.5 million rand. The assets belong to businessman Siyabonga Nkosi and his network of trusts. Katlego Lekhodi reports.
Eskom officials allegedly manipulated purchase orders for electrical relays, critical equipment used to keep the grid stable. The preservation order ensures the assets belonging to businessman Siyabonga Moses Goodwill Nkosi and his network of trusts cannot be sold or hidden while the SIU moves to permanently recover the stolen public funds.
The National Prosecuting Authority in Gauteng says it has decided not to proceed with the case against a 58-year-old man who was arrested in connection with a deadly road rage shooting in Emmarentia, Johannesburg. The man was expected to appear in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court today to face charges of murder and attempted murder. The man was involved in a physical altercation on Sunday with another driver, which escalated into a fatal shooting. The 48-year-old man that was killed during the incident is believed to be a Pakistani national, and his body is expected to be repatriated to his home country for a burial. The NPA's Makgaboke Mutlatlule explains.
After a careful consideration of the evidence of the alleged road rage incident which occurred in Emmarentia, the NPA has decided not to proceed with the matter pending further investigations.
The ANC in Mpumalanga has called on the national government to investigate the allegations made by suspended Provincial Police Commissioner Daphne Manamela. Manamela held a media briefing over the past weekend in Bombela, revealing that senior police officers interfered with certain investigations in the province. She claims that a provincial task team probing serious cases was disbanded after she was suspended. Provincial ANC Secretary Muzi Chirwa says the allegations are concerning and need to be investigated properly.
The national government is called upon to look into these allegations. They warrant further investigation and thorough investigation for the fact that there are many families who have been adversely affected by the allegations that the Provincial Commissioner has raised. And we hope, if all goes well and these allegations are investigated, it may bring closure to the various families here in Mpumalanga who have been affected and mentioned.
The Gadi family has opened a case of defeating the ends of justice against the police officers accused of interfering with their daughter's murder case. On Sunday, the suspended Mpumalanga Police Commissioner Daphne Manamela alleged that some police officers manipulated the investigations of certain cases to protect perpetrators. The Gadi family spokesperson Colin Sadibe says they want justice in this matter.
We are relying on the suspended Provincial Commissioner's information. That's why we're saying she will tell a lot, and other implicated people will also have their time to say something, including the IO, Mr. Mkhalip, who initially was given the case to investigate. But there was a tug of war about the docket. Other police wanted the docket. As to why, we don't know. But that makes us suspicious that indeed there was something wrong. And we suspect that some police knew immediately after the murder of our daughter, but they hidden the information for their own benefit.
Iran has executed a man accused of leading a network linked to Israeli intelligence and of setting fire to a mosque during the anti-government protest in January. Iranian human rights groups say many others are at risk of execution. The BBC's Sebastian Asher has the details.
As all eyes remain on where the war between the US and Iran may go next, Iranians accused of collaborating with outside forces, the Mossad in particular, continue to be executed. Amir Ali Mir Jafari was executed early this morning after his death sentence was upheld by the Supreme Court. On Monday, 2 other men were executed after being found guilty of having links to the Israeli intelligence service. Iranian activists say that hundreds of others detained during the protest in January remain at risk of death sentences or execution.
Recapping the top story, the Special Investigating Unit has secured a court order to freeze tens of millions of rands in luxury assets linked to a multi-million rand Eskom procurement scam. I'm on the Lambano for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, rugby fever builds in Gqeberha ahead of Box and Barbarians. Spain stay top as Banyana drops in latest FIFA Women's rankings, and Boxing South Africa to review Super Middleweight Championship bout. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good afternoon. If you're coming out of Sandton, a crash on Grayston Drive at the Mike 1 Highway. So Grayston's heavy. Catherine Street coming out of Sandton up to Grayston is heavy as well. Also a crash on the M1 North near Boerta Avenue. Delays heading through Centurion up towards Pretoria into that one. Durban to Pietermaritzburg. News is not good. There are multiple breakdowns, at least 3 breakdowns at Clifftown. Traffic parking all the way back through Key Ridge and back to Shongweni. Yep, it's one of those bad traffic backlogs leaving Durban this afternoon up towards that Cliffdale area. Bus crash south of Eshowe on the R66, still causing some delays. That's the Eshowe Gingagluvie run. And Cape Town, a collision N1 into town just by the Justenburg exit. That's a heavy backlog. The highway's closed. You're diverting via the ramp. So coming into Cape Town from the Stellenbosch 304 Klippevel Road exit, that is heavy towards that crash scene, and everybody going out having a look at that. So from Brackenfell out through Kraaifontein into Justenburg, big backlogs as well. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, by the way, just picking up on the conversation we had yesterday regarding that shootout around road rage, right? Someone made the point on a WhatsApp group that I'm involved in, said, besides them people learning how to shoot, right, what is the level of emotional intelligence training and testing that these shotters undergo to be able to shoot or not shoot under extreme measures? I don't know, and I thought I'd just put it out to you because you would know, I'm sure. 0614 104 107, right. We'll talk about other things too, including civil society declaring war on diabetes in South Africa. Well, I hope it's a war that we win, right, because I think as a country we struggle with it. In the meantime, let's talk about the Gardee family, not to be confused with my surname, the Garda family. So the Gardee family, as in Godrich Gardee's family, has opened a case of defeating the ends of justice against the police officers accused of interfering with their daughter's murder case. This follows the suspended Mpumalanga Police Commissioner Daphne Manamela's briefing on Sunday. We touched on it yesterday, who made various allegations, right? So let's talk about it with Colin Sidibe, the Gardee family spokesperson. Appreciate your time, Colin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and greetings to you and all the listeners at home.
Much appreciated, right? So first of all, you've heard of the allegations made by the Mpumalanga Police Commissioner Daphne Manamela. When she did that, what was the response, by the family that you can share with us?
Well, we welcome the bomb dropped by the suspended Commissioner Daphne Manamela. The same way we welcome the one that was dropped by Tatam Kwanazi, because we've learned a lot through the Madanga Commission and the other commission that there's a lot of corruption in the police system.
in the country. But this one is specifically for our province in Mpumalanga. And it also involved police interference in the murder case of the daughter of our Deputy President, Godrich Kadi. Hence, we went to open a case today at the Nelspruit police station for the IPIC to investigate the 3 police officers who were mentioned by the suspended provincial commissioner there to be involved or have interfered with the investigation of the case of our daughter. Among them is the retired general who was just reporting after the Lieutenant General Manamela in the name of Pototso Mkwangwe, and then there's also Major General there, a woman called Dora Taba, who, according to Manamela, was communicating with the suspect from hiding, meaning she was assisting the suspect to escape arrest and intimidating the investigating officer which was given the case by saying that suspect must not talk to anyone in Nelspruit but only herself. And why must we do that, knowing exactly that we are not allocated investigator on that case? So there's something very sinister here. But the case we have opened, of course, is that of defeating the end of justice and corruption.
So let's talk about that. When we say defeating the ends of justice and corruption, what is it from the Gardi family that emboldens you to push for that line?
Look, defeating the end of justice is normally carried by those that are responsible to make sure that they implement the law, like the police or other lawmakers. So that's why we coupled it with corruption. Okay, it's not only defeating the end of justice alone, but what we want to see is all those that I mentioned, the 3 culprits, appearing in court and facing the full might of the law, as well as, if possible, appear in the Madanga Commission. We have already written to the Madanga Commission to request that they must afford them an opportunity to come and testify.
Have they responded? Have they responded to that?
No, they have not responded yet. We wrote yesterday. Because they are still busy. We hope by end of business day today they'll have responded. Yes.
What for you would be the desired outcome of a case like this?
Any other case, but it's a murder case. Our daughter was abducted and murdered and robbed of a cell phone, a laptop, bank card. My money was removed, and the culprit that is in jail now was linked to the cell phone record to be the one who did this. And I can tell you, my man, that we are suspecting that the police knew about this killer 2 days after we discovered our daughter. But because they are conniving with him and other criminal syndicates, they had to cover him. Because why must you want to take a docket from an investigator that is doing so well? The records are very clear. We don't have a doubt that when he appear in court in October, he will sentence to life or multiple life sentences. Because
when you say him, I mean, can you tell us more about him?
I mean, the Lasin Guna that is currently in custody, waiting for the trial on the murder of our daughter.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Colin Sidibe, thanks for your time. Spokesperson for the Gardi family. This, of course, after the family itself opening the case of defeating the ends of justice against the police officers accused of interfering with the daughter of Godrich Gardi in that really tragic murder case story. So thanks for your time. Reaction is always from you, the listener, wherever you may be, in the country, in the world, wherever, on radio, on on the SABC Plus app, on streaming live, on YouTube. We've got you covered wherever it is. In fact, tell me where you're listening in from to the National Pulse.
Moro, Moni, Dumila, Bonjour, Habari. You arrived in South Africa to build something better. New place, new challenges, new responsibilities. Now you can with the Mama Money bank account. Pay your rent, take care of your daily needs, build your life, and when your family needs you, you don't wait. You send money home, quickly, securely, from wherever you are. Because this is more than money, it's progress. Buy your Mama Money card today at Pick n Pay or a Mama Money agent. Mama Money, now you can.
Mavis, I wonder if I should sell my car. I'm not sure where to go.
Wanna sell your car, but don't know what to do. You don't have to go far, we come to you. If you're rolling on a 1.5 or a Lacquer 2.2, doesn't matter what you drive, we buy cars once you.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, I need to hear you out. You got your fingers on the pulse. Here's a question from, well, Matari saying in comments, Ashraf, what should be amplified is that South Africa is a state whose rulers have handed over the nation to defilement and have fueled the wrath of God. Think of the one world order that South Africa is subscribed to, yet today they are overwhelmed by the repercussions thereof. We need to have that conversation. Here's more from you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm Tagata in Mangwevin location of Imvaba. I'm confused now. I heard that the NPA didn't prosecute the guy who was killing someone in Emeryshia in that road rage, Palestinian guy. And when we talk about the Firearm Controls Act, whoever that discharged firearm need to be prosecuted like Malema. But now in this case, someone lost his life, but now the NPA didn't prosecute this man. Is it because of lacking of evidence? When there are no witnesses in that place, I really don't know. Somebody who's an expert in this can come and clear us. What is the real reason?
Yeah, I think, they not prosecuting today, but they said they will continue with evidence gathering. So that will come. I'm sure of that. There were lots of eyewitnesses. There were plenty. There's video coverage as well. And that person, the person who died, is a Pakistani national who I understand, obviously his family is here, but he's been transported home, today, yesterday, overnight, I understand. But by the way, we're going to get a report on that at about 20:05, okay? What about the Madlanga Commission?
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to all the listeners. Well, today, Garrett, the COOF of Ekurhuleni, well, I think he's dug a hole so deep that even the whole of Kimberley looks small. Well, I think he has his days numbers, and by Friday they should be picking him up with handcuffs and loading him back of the van. Well, this is good for all the people of South Africa, knowing that corruption is not going to work anymore.
Corruption is not going to work anymore. There we are.
Good afternoon, Sir Ashraf. Good afternoon, SAFM listeners. Sir Ashraf, go anywhere in Africa, go anywhere in Europe. A foreign national, it doesn't possess the weapon. I can tell you even my name now. You can contact me or do whatever. Foreign national don't possess weapons in any other countries. Why? Because there is a police in Malawi or wherever, or in Nigeria to protect, or in Ghana to protect those people. Why in South Africa we are allowing foreign national to possess weapon? I thank you.
But which weapons are you talking about? Are you saying that a foreign national legitimately in this country with documentation, living in this country, invested here, can't get a weapon in terms of a gun, for example? I mean, which weapon are you talking about? Gun, knife, dagger, what? Can't get a weapon and can't get a weapon anywhere in the world? That's the world norm? Well, I'm trying to learn something I didn't know. There's another.
Ashraf, hello, this is Tsepiso. You know, I was having exactly that conversation with my sister yesterday about emotional intelligence. But apart from that I feel like, and really not, I'm not intending to judge anybody, but then I don't know if you've noticed that everywhere you go, people are angry when you drive on the road. You walk, you go into the mall, on the streets, people are just full of anger. And I remember saying this to my sister, that this case, unfortunately, as said it may be, because somebody has passed, is going to be deemed self-defense, and probably the charges are going to be dropped. And when I heard about it this morning, I was just, shocked and sad, because now a person has died. But it is what it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, it depends in terms of whether video evidence will be permissible. What we've seen, because those videos have been shared, is the person who was killed actually shot the first shot and missed at the shotters, and the shotters then responded by shooting this person. So, but let's let the law take its course. The bottom line to all of this is like, how do we lose lives over bumper bashings? I mean, that's really what it is, isn't it?
Good day, Ashraf and the team. I think, Ashraf, now we need a new law. Once you are implemented in the corruption, please resign. It must be a straight that we must do. Resign and leave the office. We can't have the whole cabinet. They have to go to court and answer the corruption cases. The police, all the generals, they have to go to court and answer the corruption cases. How do we suppose to fix the problem? Please. Let's put a law. Once your name has been caught in corruption, you move. There is no smoke without fire.
Yeah, but you see, there's a rule of law. So, I mean, let's say I accuse you of something, and either on flimsy evidence or, in fact, I'm out to nail you. That means I'm corrupt and I want to nail you. By simply accusing you, does that mean you must leave your job? Can you see how difficult it is without you being convicted? Suspended is different from actually quitting. I mean, there's a case for that, hey, there can be an accusation and maybe you can be suspended if there's solid grounds for that. But it can't just be that the moment someone mentions your name, that's it. Call it today, walk out, fired, retired, resign. Can you just imagine that? Right, let's talk about something you'd wish to retire, which is diabetes in South Africa. We'll talk about that next.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
By the way, we're going to have this Madlanga report around 5:45 today, as we do it every single day, an analysis of some of the biggest issues that came through from the Commission today. So don't miss that. In the meantime, 24 civil society organizations have joined forces to demand urgent, coordinated action on a disease that is now the country's leading cause of natural death, and to hold themselves accountable too. Well, we're talking about diabetes, so there's a declaration of war against or on diabetes in our country. Let's find out more about it with the CEO of the Healthy Living Alliance, and the code name for that, or the acronym, would be HEALA. Nzame Mbalati with me. Thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having us, Ashraf, and good afternoon to FM listeners.
Thank you. I mean, so I see the leading point in the article, or in the introduction, is that it's the leading cause of natural death in our country. Really? By what percentage? Give us a sense of it.
Yeah. So it is a leading cause of death. So we know every year 10,000 people are dying from diabetes. We equate that to 27 people a day. This is a big problem, and I think learning from other epidemics, we're coming from the scourge of HIV. Again, we left it until it was too late. And when the epidemic is growing, we see it by Ashraf having a family member, having a colleague, having a neighbor living with the disease. And today we have the face of diabetes like that. Each and every one of us know someone who's living with diabetes in their close kin. And I think that shows the magnitude of the epidemic and how the epidemic is ravaging society broadly. And the lack of response or doing like business as usual is what we are actually calling against, because we don't think we are doing enough to address the scourge.
That lack of response is from who?
So the lack of response is in the broader of society. That is the state. Everyone has a role, and we've held ourselves accountable as civil society. We said we need to drive social mobilization. We need to build a movement on this. But I think government has a role in terms of having coordinated mechanism, political will, right? The problem of diabetes is that it's also underdiagnosed. We know that there's no database or register for diabetes as we speak right now. So we only know that about 4.2 million people who live in South Africa are diabetic. But the scourge, because we have been saying a long time that it's a silent killer, is that people present when they are very sick or ill, when people are about to be amputated. And that is a big problem now that we are having, that we don't even know we cannot map out the kind of problem that we have on diabetes because of the problems I've outlined. Private sector has a role as well in terms of, food and beverage manufacturers. How can they assist in reformulating, but how can they also assist in terms of offering healthier alternatives that are affordable for most people? So it's a big societal problem, and I think the accountability has to come across the spectrum.
Let's then talk of the work then of HEALA, your organization, and the various civil society organizations that have now joined forces.
So the work of HEALA include a broad range of things, and we're thinking why we join the other organizations from civil society in doing this is that we have to do more than the drop in the ocean. The growth of this epidemic is worrying. The trend is worrying, is that we are doing a lot of social mobilization, from education to awareness. And at SAFM, I'm sure there's a HEALA advert that is like raising awareness in terms of informing public. They would do a lot of work around nutrition, literacy, and advocacy for communities, and ensuring that people have the right access to information, right? We can have individual agency. We're also doing a lot of work in holding government and the private sector accountable in terms of how the role they are playing or not playing in terms of addressing the epidemic of diabetes. So we work with schools around, young children. How do we make sure that, there's prevention of diabetes in schools, in broader society, at household level? So we are playing as a resource center where people can tap into access information, but also in terms of responding, including, the diet-related type 2 diabetes, which is the where most of the people are living with it, in terms of what are we eating, how do we even prepare food in the household. So we do a lot of work, practical work, in terms of raising awareness and empowering communities to respond to diabetes as well, and non-communicable diseases broadly.
So, I would take it, Plan A would be preventative, to increase the preventative measures so that the numbers of infection of people living with diabetes then just drops considerably, right? So tell me about that part. How do we ensure the preventative aspect awareness improves, and then the overall treatment of diabetes also improves, so we don't have that many deaths that you refer to now from people because of diabetes? What do you foresee then should be the plan, either through your pressure groups and working through government, through healthcare, or through civil society itself?
Yeah, we must look at diabetes at the macro level as an equity issue. So the growing epidemic of diabetes now is going towards the low-income households, right? Because people have limited options in terms of affording diet. Again, we're talking about the issue of safety, and I was listening to the conversation we were having. How many people can afford to have physical activity if they are working? It's not safe in the streets at night. It's not safe early in the morning, and all those kind of things. So we need to create an enabling environment and have the food systems and that can actually cater for healthcare alternatives. But we also need government to have a drive in terms of like having a healthcare system that can actually actively, screen and diagnose diabetes at the early stage, making sure that people who are living with diabetes can have access to care. But also there are people who are very much pre-diabetic already, and they do not know. How do we actually get those people? How do we detect those cases and make sure that, people who are not diabetic can remain, we can prevent diabetes? Children at school, what are our children eating? Do children even have body activity? Now we're living in the technology world, right, where children sit in their gadgets. So there is a whole range of things that we can do in terms of individual agency, in terms of enabling that the country and the system is allowing and is protecting people from diabetes. And I think the private sector as well has a role in terms of even funding initiatives such as what HEALA is doing and ensuring that we can scale that in a massive scale to reach every household, every individual, and we can have a country that is preventative, but also the country that has a health promotion in terms of everyone in society.
Okay, that's where we can leave it, and let's hope that you are successful in what you do. CEO of the Healthy Living Alliance, Nzame Mbalati, and that of course would be HEALA, but there's now 24 civil society organizations joining forces to demand urgent, coordinated action on diabetes as a leading cause of natural death in South Africa. Something has to change. I don't know how often I say that. Here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Special Investigating Unit has secured a court order to freeze tens of millions of rands in luxury assets linked to a multi-million rand Eskom procurement scam. Suspended City of Tshwane CFO Gareth Mnisi has testified that Sergeant Fani Nkosi took it upon himself to assist in a payment dispute between the city and security company Gubi's 85 Solutions. And students in Dubai return this week to classrooms after 7 weeks of distance learning, with parents and educators welcoming a long-awaited comeback to routine and social interaction. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hobbs.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still a bit slow coming out of Santa today. An earlier crash on Grayston Drive at the Mike One Highways backed things up, and horribly backing up Catherine Street as well, coming away from Sandton up to that backlog on Grayston Drive. Lights are out on Caller Drive at the Mike One Highway. If you're moving away from the Melrose area, that's slow. Big traffic going into four ways today. William Mandela lights at Monte Casino are still down. Backlogs from Bryanston across the highway and into that four ways area. The N1 North slow as far as New Road. That's heading up through the Midrand section, and then it all gets a bit heavy as you get up through into Pretoria. There's a crash near Botha Avenue causing some delays, and then a bit of wet weather about as well, so just slow through that all the way through to about Linwood Road today. SKM Pethweli and the Dustport Tunnel, both of those options running north, are under pressure. Multiple breakdowns at Cliffdale. If you're on your way out of Durban to Pietermaritzburg, it's one of those horrible afternoons again. Traffic backlogging just after Shongweni up through Key Ridge and on towards that Cliffdale area. Very heavy. And talking of heavy, Cape Town's N1 under pressure. The route is closed inbound at Justenburg for truck crash recovery. So there's a really big delay as you come in from that sort of Stellenbosch exit. Everyone being diverted off the highway, and that's a heavy queue into Justenburg. Also going outbound, it's bad today. Traffic leaving the city centre, queues all the way through, basically towards Justenburg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Well, Tumi does it at the bottom of the hour every day, talking sport. Tumi, as always, you bring up the issues that really matter. And in this case, you have a rugby story, right?
Yes, excitement is building up in Gqeberha with just 60 days to go until the Springboks launch their 2026 season against Scott Robinson's star-studded Barbarian side in the Yes Play Cup. The Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium will host the clash following last year's sellout in Cape Town, with the SAA facing Zimbabwe in the curtain raiser. And Bok coach Rassie Rasmus says that he expects another packed house, noting that the team has never lost at the venue. In football, Spain remains world number one in the latest FIFA Coca-Cola Women's World Ranking. This is despite last week's qualifying defeat to England. The Lionesses climbed to third, leapfrogging Germany, while the United States stays second. Japan are the biggest movers in the top 10, rising 3 places to 5th. This is after winning the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Elsewhere, Sweden dropped 3 points to 8th. The Netherlands returned to top 10 at 10th, and also Canada edged up to 9th. But just bringing it home, South Africa slipped 3 places to 58th in the world. In athletics, South African road running star Taylor Cabana says that she is staying calm. This is despite being in red hot form ahead of the Absa Run Your City Cape Town 10 kilometer on the 10th of May. The 24-year-old has enjoyed a breakthrough season, winning the Spa Women's 10 kilometer in Greenpoint last month and also claiming gold at the National Track and Field Championships in Stellenbosch. Already the national 5,000 meter champion, Cabana has set personal best across multiple distances this year, including a 31 minute 33 seconds over 10 kilometers, and she insists that she's not feeling any pressure, saying that she wants a solid run and to enjoy the race. In terms of motorsport, Formula One has announced a series of rule changes to ease concerns over the sport's new power unit regulations. The engines, which now rely on a near 50-by-50 split between the combustion and electrical power, had withdrawn criticism from drivers who felt their skills were being diminished. 4-time world champion Max Verstappen even suggested that he was considering his future in the sport. The modifications are designed to let drivers push harder in qualifying and reduce the huge speed gaps seen in races when battery power runs out, which is a difference of up to 470 horsepower, and most of those changes will take effect at the Miami Grand Prix from the 1st to the 3rd of May. In boxing South Africa has confirmed that Dylan Prosser's split decision victory over Snamiso Ntuli in Cape Town will be subjected to a formal review. The Super Middleweight Championship clash at Insane Boxing Promotions Fight Island event on the 18th of April ended with Prosser declared the winner after 12 rounds, but Ntuli's camp and sections of the boxing community voiced dissatisfaction. BSA says that an independent panel of judges from different provinces will rescore the fight using official criteria, with the panel's decision final, and the organization also stressed that officiating and judging reforms remain a priority. For now, though, Prosser celebrates extending his unbeaten record while Ntuli awaits justice. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Perfect. There we are. You said, 6 weeks to go? Barbarians against the Springboks. My goodness, the excitement there. Well, I'm not feeling it now, but we're bound to feel it later on, right? Okay, thanks for that, Tumi. More sport in an hour.
2 great national teams return to the battlefield. Proteas women are ready to triple their efforts. Meanwhile, women in blue believe they have the correct ingredients to win. This is the 4th T20 International. Catch South Africa versus India on Saturday, 25 April at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC3, with reports on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
When you listen to me, I feel important. When you hug me, I feel safe. When you talk with me, I learn.
Your love and attention helps your child grow strong and confident. Listen, comfort, and connect with him, because every child deserves to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all. Under the theme, Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAFM will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, with all the numbers, Paswane and Patlela, you've got news about AfriMat, Paswane. Paswan, are you there? Maybe not. Okay, we'll connect with Paswan and Padlede just in a moment. There's certainly news about AfriMet. Let me just tell you as well, later on, after 5 o'clock, we'll talk about what's happened in Durban. There's been, again, and this happened yesterday, March in March. They marched through the streets of Durban, and what exactly the story is, we don't quite know. We'll find out exactly what, because there are different sides to that story. So we'll find out later on, right? When I chat to Jacinta Ngobese Zuma coming up later on. But for now, Paswan and Padlede, you're there, right? Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Can you hear me?
I certainly can. Right, let's talk about AfriMet.
Yeah, AfriMet. Yeah, this is the mining and construction company. They gave us their trading update for the financial year of 2026. They delivered some stronger earnings with the profit as per headline earnings per share up as high as 37%. It's supported by that iron ore strength taking place and the cleanup they've been doing in their operations as they become more lean and focused on commodities. Cement business, yes, it's a bit of a dragger but improving. However, the stock reacted negatively overall, down around 6.5% right now, as investors were worried about the second half of the performance based on the numbers they're seeing today. So we have to wait for the full numbers. When we come into the market over in general markets developments, we're seeing South Africa's business confidence for March signal that our economy is improving, Ashraf, compared to last year. But the momentum is getting under pressure, especially because of those global shocks. When you think of the higher oil prices still elevated, the trade disruptions, but there is still a pocket of support coming from the lower inflation in general and the stronger vehicle sales and increased tourism activity. However, overall, it's just looking like it's becoming a more fragile recovery, and the same was signaled from the likes of the S&P rating agency, as it's still on track to maintain us for our ratings with a positive outlook. Globally, the U.S. retail sales were better than expected, up 1.7%. Reflecting that the U.S. economy and consumers is holding up well, although at a slower pace when you compare it to previous periods as the fuel prices bites. Overall, on the micro, investors are focused on the Middle East developments, the uncertainty of the risk of escalation, considering that the deadline is coming up tomorrow and Trump is not planning on extending its sentiment, is caution on investors. But when you look at those numbers, you're seeing continued breakdown in trends from higher highs in terms of oil prices, right now up 0.5% at $95.95 a barrel. The dollar remains in bearish trend and very range bound around 98.1. And while yields tick up slightly, therefore affecting some of the commodity plays, we see gold is down 0.8% at $4,775 an ounce. Platinum is at $2,093 an ounce. But however, all of them hold bullish trends and trade levels. U.S. indexes opened up, running up, with S&P was up 0.3, Nasdaq and Dow up 0.4, reflecting that there is optimism running about the Middle East might be playing in the background going forward. The likes of Europe, CAC, FTSE with commodities weaker, they are lower, down 0.7. JC shares the same sentiment, we're down 0.8 with the resource sector down 2%. The industrials is down 0.3, financials down 0.1. When we look at our currencies, more or less in range bound. Rand against the dollar is at 16.37, Rand against the euro 19.27, and Rand against the pound 22 Rand 15 cents.
Okay, that's where we have it. Paswani, thanks for that. We'll have an update from you again tomorrow, remember. But 6 to 7, we have another hour of the SAFM market update.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So we had, that response from that caller saying foreigners can't own firearms anywhere in the world. Yeah, here we are.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. That guy who is saying that a foreign national doesn't possess a weapon, you go to Europe, you go to where he is not allowed. He's lying, that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. As long as he is legal in a country, he's allowed to possess a weapon. As long as his criminal record is clean, he's allowed to possess a weapon. He's legal in a country. So if it is for self-defense, then he's allowed. If it is for business, he's allowed to possess that weapon.
Well, that's what I would have thought. But in fact,
he doesn't know what he's saying, that guy. Anonymous.
Thanks for that. Anonymous. Here's another on the same issue.
Ashraf, the caller doesn't say in South Africa they do not have a right. He says in foreign countries they do not have a right. So it could be that in South Africa they have a right. So what he is saying is that why our laws are so lax and so accommodating to the foreign national to the extent that they can possess weapons. So the thing is, they should be prevented from possessing weapons in the accordance of the caller, Ewin B. Bombed.
In fact, I mean, that's the way I understand what was said, to say, hey, they're not allowed weapons anywhere in the world, but they allowed it in South Africa. I'm actually saying, is that true anywhere in the world? I don't know. And I can't see why, yes, a foreign national with a good record living in South Africa would be denied that right to self-defense compared to anybody else. I can't see that. But anyway, that caller is saying deny them that year because it's been denied everywhere else in the world, right? We're going to have more to come, including a conversation about the listeriosis case. Remember, that's an ongoing conversation. We'll do that after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Well, you know, some issues just go on and they drag on. And this would be the case regarding the Tiger Brands listeriosis case. Now, just to recap, the Gauteng High Court has now ordered the release of confidential medical records to support a class action against a lawsuit, that is, let me repeat it, a class action lawsuit against Tiger Brands. This follows that deadly listeriosis outbreak linked to the Tiger Brands facility in 2017. And if you remember, it claimed the lives of 218 people, right? Including some of them were babies too, right? So what does this mean? Let's find out more about it with Amy Tuchten, who's an associate designate at the Richard Spoor Inc. Attorneys. Amy, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Give us some context. Why is this important?
So this application it's premised upon the fact that during the listeriosis outbreak in 2016 to 2018, the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, as a branch of the National Department of Health, conducted an investigation to locate the source of the listeriosis outbreak. And through various levels of DNA testing and genome sequencing, they linked the primary strain of the outbreak being sequence type 6 or ST6 to Tiger Brands' factory in Polokwane and in Germiston. And so that the samples taken from the factory were linked to over 1,000 individuals who contracted listeriosis during that period and for whom the National Institute has testing on file. So not only is the evidence important at an individual level, but it's important in proving the entire evidentiary band of the class action as a whole.
And let's talk about this class action, because I understand, I mean, there was a period, as I said, it's a long time ago, that in fact there was a settlement made by Tiger Brands, wasn't there?
So there was a settlement offer that was made last year, but that settlement offer was only in respect of certain claimants who had a certain highly specific band of evidentiary testing that was done by the NICD in the first case. So I can explain the different levels of genetic testing.
I think please do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at the first level, if you fall sick and you go to hospital, a clinical sample will be taken, usually a blood test, and that blood test will identify Listeria monocytogenes, which is the bacteria causing listeriosis in your sample. That sample can then be taken by the NICD and it can be run through something called whole genome sequencing, which is where they basically, in my layperson lawyer terms, they unwind the genome and they see what the whole genome looks like, and they can match it to a specific strain of Listeria. Over and above that is something called core genome sequencing, and that's where you take specific parts of that genome and you can be able to match it exactly to, for example, a Poloni sample that came out of Tiger Brands' factory. And that's just what they did for over 300 individuals. And so those of whom Tiger Brands has admitted the evidence is incontrovertible, and that's for whom they're willing to settle. But from the perspective of the class attorneys, that evidence is just by chance that certain people have that testing. That's not to say that the rest of the class wasn't also made ill by Tiger Brands' product. It's rather that that band of evidence for those 300 people proves the broader class period and the broader class grouping to say that more likely than not, everyone who contracted listeriosis during the period of 23 October 2016 to 3 September 2018 contracted it from Tiger Brands' product.
Well, I think the natural question is what happens next, which we'll find out right after this.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Well, keep your WhatsApp comments coming. And you can certainly call in live as well. There's lots of people commenting about a range of issues, including foreign nationals and their use of firearms, and then a whole lot of other things, including people commenting about what's happened in Durban, the city itself, yesterday as well as today. We will chat about that coming up after 5 o'clock. Let's conclude our conversation with Amy Tuchten, the Associate Designate at Richard Spoor Inc. attorney. So, Amy, in terms of this Tiger Brands listeriosis case, so what happens next? And because the significance of this High Court ordering the release of confidential medical records, what then happens next?
So these records are important, firstly, for the class members we've been able to locate. It's important to keep in mind that when the class action was certified by the High Court at the end of 2018, it has shaped the class action as an opt-out class action, which means that everyone who contracted listeriosis and ate a Tiger Brands product during the period I described is a class member. But they need, firstly, to have an opportunity to opt out of the class action if they don't want to, which hasn't been the case. But then this also means that we are able to have the evidence for the people who are our clients to ensure that once general causation is proven and Tiger Brands' liability is proven, then we can start quantifying and looking at individual damages and individual liability.
And when does it all kick in?
So the judgment was granted at the end of last week. So we will be engaging with the NICD's legal representatives on the way forward. But we do believe that the disclosure will boost settlement discussions, which have been ongoing, as we've already discussed.
Okay. Amy Tuchten, thanks for your time. Associate Designate at Richard Spoor Inc. Attorneys. There we are. A terrible story a few years ago. And can you see the fallout still continues? This is the National Pulse.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Comments from UTG, who often does comment, saying, Ashraf, the Firearms Act of Act 60 of the year 2000 allows only permanent residents, but they must follow certain criteria. Well, I mean, that would be what I would think, that why would they not then be allowed that? But it's certainly, that means it has to be entrenched, a person entrenched in this country to be able to be allowed to use a firearm, isn't it? Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. The caller doesn't say in South Africa they do not have a right. He says in foreign countries they do not have a right.
Okay.
So
I think we did play that one. Right, let's just pick up. Here's another.
Good afternoon, guys. SAFM. It's Petros here in Durban. I'm Salazing Nombozo. Where is Mike Van Wyk? Where is Mike Van Wyk? Because now we are thinking
and here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. Can you please invite a labor law expert in order for him or her to explain to us what should actually happen if there is a prima facie evidence against an employee in the workplace? In this case, the commissioner, the national commissioner.
Well, that may well come up soon too. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the team. Good show as always. In the spirit of fairness, I think the National Commissioner should recuse himself. I mean, he should step aside and allow the process to run smoothly. That's my take. Thank you, PK.
Yeah, thanks for that. Look, many people have similar views on that, but and it's a point I made earlier on that the problem is, one thing is an accusation or an allegation, but if it's not firm and clear-cut, does that mean any accusation against anybody in that position, and they have to not only step down immediately, they have to resign immediately? I mean, would that be fair? Right, there's more to come here on the National Pulse. Let me remind you, after there's been lots of tension in the streets of Durban or Tigwini yesterday as well as today, and I understand there was a confrontation between people, and then we categorize the people. Some of them are what is considered locals, and others are foreign nationals. We'll find out all about it by chatting to Jacinta Ngobese Zuma, leader of March and March. And then later on, we'll pick up on that conversation regarding that shooting, that road rage story in Emmarentia. There's been a development on that story, which we'll get all the details of just now. There's further comments from you on the gun laws. Let's pick up on that.
Ashraf, how are you? If you enter in any country, if your driving permit is allowed to drive a car in that country, why is it that you can't use any weapon, any gun which is allowed to any citizen in that country? It's a question. Anybody can answer it. Because if you are driving a car, your driving permit is allowed, why shouldn't you use a gun? You mean that self-defense is used by only citizens? Foreigners can't be with self-defense? It's a question. Anybody can answer me. I'm Nathan Ike from Omega. Bye.
Well, I mean, I would be surprised. I mean, you're right. I mean, that means anybody, I don't know, Donald Trump's wife, born in the USA, or born in another country, rather, living in the USA, as an example, that they can be there for 30 years, 40 years, they can be established, they cannot own a firearm. I don't think it makes sense. The question is, from a South African perspective, are our gun laws, firearm laws in this country, do they need considerable tightening up? I think the one thing is very clear from a gun-free South Africa. They just believe that, you want to cut out these rampant shootings that take place, cut out the guns. The usage of guns are a no. The question is, many say, actually we have guns in self-defense. That's the only reason we have a gun. We don't want a gun. But what happens if we don't have a gun and a crook has a gun? Then what? Then I'm literally a sitting duck.
Afternoon, Ashraf. I think people must start doing their research on firearm laws across the world. In a lot of countries, it differs. In South Africa, you can own a firearm as a foreigner. I mean, if you're a permanent resident, for example, I mean, for business, if you own a security company, I mean, for various different reasons. And also other countries, it's the same. If I go to the USA today and I'm a green card holder, I can technically go and buy a firearm. I mean, it's nothing strange. It's nothing new. I mean, the Firearm Controls Act of 2000 was promulgated so many years ago. People just don't read the laws that are passed by Parliament. Anonymous from Limpopo.
Got that. Well, I mean, you're right. And yes, there's 100 countries in the world, and there's more, of course. Clearly, there are different laws in every single country. The fact is, some of them allow it, and some of them do not allow it, right? What else? I mean, there's an interesting thought around, have you been in, Durban, Tigwini, just by the way? And if so, are you able to give us some thoughts in terms of your experience yesterday? On the other hand, have you been following the Madlanga Commission? We don't give ball by ball or blow by blow coverage. We'll give you an updated 6 rather. But it has been another day of big things happening regarding the CFO of the city of Tshwane. That's Gareth Mnisi, right? And there's comments from you. So, Mason Dikela saying, Ashraf, I'm listening to the testimony of Mnisi, the suspended CFO of Tshwane, and the guy must be arrested and seize his assets. It has been proven that he's corrupt. I just wonder, how do you say that he's been proven that he's corrupt? I've also got Amnesty South Africa. They've tweeted, so you can check it out. I've just reposted it. They've tweeted their State of Human Rights report from around the world. It's all there, right? so you can check it out. And the voice note is one from Monyekolo. Ashraf, the voice note from Mike in Mutse, who asked about Senzim Kunu's suspension, sounds like Soviet Dekhanyani. I was convinced that it was him. Question. Okay. When is the ad hoc committee report coming out? It'll come, few months. Just stick around and then you'll see it, right? Okay. That's that for now. Now, what we'll do after 5 o'clock, we're going to talk about, Tegwini Durban, Jacinta Ngobese Zuma, about the march and what happened yesterday and what's happening today. Right now, let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Millions of rands in luxury assets frozen by the SIU and students returned to classrooms in Dubai. Good day to you. The SIU secured a court order to freeze tens of millions of rands in luxury assets linked to a multi-million rand Eskom procurement scam. The unit says it's frozen 17 immovable properties and 7 luxury vehicles with a combined value of more than 76 million rand. The assets belong to businessman Siyabonga Nkosi and his network of trusts. Katlego Lechodi reports.
The Special Investigating Unit's investigation reveals a high level of greed at the Kusile and Matla power stations between 2021 and 2023. It uncovered that Eskom officials allegedly manipulated purchase orders for electrical relays, critical equipment used to keep the grid stable. The preservation order granted by Judge B.M. Webe ensures the assets belonging to businessman Siyabonga Moses Goodwill Nkosi and his network of trusts cannot be sold or hidden while the SIU moves to permanently recover the stolen public funds. I'm Katlego Lechodi for SABC News in Johannesburg.
The suspended City of Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi testified that Sergeant Fani Nkosi took it upon himself to assist in a payment dispute between the City and the security company Gubus 85 Solutions. Nkosi's involvement has raised questions as he is not employed by the city. Further evidence before the Commission indicates that Nkosi sought the intervention of the suspended Tshwane Deputy Police Chief Umashid Lamini to help resolve the dispute. When probed by the Matlanga Commission evidence leader, Advocate Matthew Chaskelson, and Commissioner Sesi Beloy on why he didn't approach Dlamini directly, Nisi says he didn't have his details.
And you don't have a central directory available for senior executives at Tshwane?
That gives cell phone numbers, no.
You do not have administrative staff in your office?
We do have.
So you have a PA?
I do have a PA.
And you didn't think the PA should deal with this and communicate with the general with General Dlamini instead of an outsider who's really a member of the public for all intents and purposes?
At this point in time, it didn't cross my mind, Jay. Okay. But in hindsight, I should have.
The IEC says preparations for the local government elections are well in advance. A senior delegation from the Electoral Commission has briefed Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs on its annual performance plan and budget. Chief Electoral Officer Sai Mamabolo.
Yeah, undertaking we're at about 80% complete with a platform upgrade. That platform upgrade entails the acquisition of new hardware by servers, storage, PCs, on the one hand.
The Kruger National Park has confirmed that Lower Sabi Rest Camp, which was partly damaged by fire this morning, remains operational. A probe is underway to establish the cause of the fire. Initial reports suggest an electrical fault might have caused the blaze. No injuries or deaths have been reported. The Kruger National Park's Rita Cooley.
I must mention that the shop is attached to the restaurant as well as the reception area. Both the restaurant and the reception area have not been affected. Only the shop is completely gutted down by the fire, and we are now assessing the damages on the shop and also assessing whether it is safe to utilize the restaurant at the moment. And we are saying to guests that are coming to the park to please stock up on their supplies before they arrive into the park, or they can also, do that at the nearest camps such as Skukuza, Crocodile Bridge, Tsokwan, and Satara.
Students in Dubai have returned to classrooms after 7 weeks of distance learning, with parents and teachers welcoming a long-awaited comeback to routine and social interaction. The outbreak of the US, Israel and Iran conflict in February led to drone and missile incidents across the Gulf and disrupted key sectors. Fatima Banai is a parent whose children have now returned to class.
We're feeling relieved. Things are going back to normal, and kids are going back to their routine after 7 weeks of being at home. After, the situation that we were living in, but we're alhamdulillah going back and back to normal.
Top story: the SIU secured a court order to freeze tens of millions of rands in luxury assets linked to a multi-million rand Eskom procurement scam. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
In sports this hour, Cardoso slams critics as Sundowns aim for Champions League and league title. Rugby fever builds in Gqeberha ahead of Boks and Barbarians, and PGA Tour ends Hawaii tradition after 63 years. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's fairly busy around Pretoria today. The N1 going north. Just some slow-moving traffic coming out from Centurion through to about Linwood Road. Southbound, there's a breakdown between Garsfontein and Rigel, holding that traffic up. Lights are out, Solomon Mshlangu and Disselboom. So there's a lot of traffic on that Pretoria East around Eskia and Pathreli up towards Potco, and Transaranya up towards Dustport Tunnel. Those two routes heavy as well. Joburg's N1 from Buccleuch down to William Mandela is tight today. N3, Limbro Park down to Heldenace is slow going. There is a crash at the Heldenace interchange, plus a breakdown of Van Buren, so that N3 looking pretty busy. Also lights out on Grayston Drive at the Mike 1, so coming out of Sandton, that run out on Grayston remains busy. Major delays still with us if you're going between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. It's the last of the broken down trucks still with us at Cliffdale, so from Shongweni there is quite a backlog of traffic to work through there. Stationary vehicle on the N3 inbound, that's coming in from Pavilion Mall at Spaghetti Junction, so if you're Durban bound, that is quite heavy today, and there's a bit of a slowdown on the Pietermaritzburg bypass N3 coming southbound down to about New England Road, Ortman Road territory. Cape Town truck crash recovery continues, N1 inbound between Eastenburg and Brighton Road. That's a very heavy backlog, big queues coming in from sort of the Stellenbosch exit, maybe a bit beyond that, back towards Klapmuts. If you're driving into Cape Town from Paarl, the N1 is bad. Heading outbound, there's no gaps today, basically from Kuburg interchange right out to that scene at Eastenburg. All these side and alternative routes in that area, very heavy. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So the IFP, they've got some plans, for the elections, the upcoming elections, to the point of its importance that they have now deferred their national and provincial conferences to prioritize the 2026 local government election. How important is that? We'll also have an update on that road rage shooting and the appearances in court today of the suspect. So we'll talk about that just after 20 past 5 or so indeed. But keep the calls coming, keep those points going in terms of whatever it is you wish to raise. What's been for you the biggest issues that's moved the needle, the national pulse of our nation? I'd like to pick up on it. What about what's happened in Durban yesterday and today? We'll chat to Jacinta Ngobese Zuma right after this.
Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
Rashida, why do you think it's taken so long?
Our justice system is failing us on the whole. Because we are dealing with so many tragedies out there, it is just not true. I am a human rights activist. I believe in humanity. Some of our parents died by the wayside. Nobody can answer us to say why it is taking so long. Why must we go and protest? Why must we go and beg for justice? It was clear as daylight that this patient was murdered.
Rashida Landis, mother to one of the survivors of the Life Esidimeni tragedy.
This is Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so yesterday around this time as I was hosting the show, I got one or two people sending videos, others I saw on social media. There was like no commentary around it, just people. And all you see is, people, one group chasing another group. You see another with a punch-up of sorts, but it's not very clear. And I asked even then, I said, hey, you know what? If you know much more about it, let me know. And where is it? Because it also was not very, very clear where that was anyway, although it seemed like it was in KZN or Tegwini or Durban, and that's exactly understand what's been the case. But let's find out the story around it, because I think central to that, what we find out now, is the groups of people maybe belonging to different organizations, but certainly some of them supporters of the March and March organization. We've chatted to them before about their own stance in the country, particularly around undocumented foreign nationals. With me, Jacinta Ngobese Zuma. Appreciate your time and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf. Appreciate the opportunity and thank you to the listeners.
Thank you. So let's understand what happened, because I don't know, and I'm hearing just so many different stories. What actually took place yesterday, and if there was an extension of that today?
All right. So what happened is yesterday, not even just yesterday, from Tuesday, we had decided that we're tired of our cities looking like a junk, and them being overcrowded, people just selling on the streets willy-nilly with little, if any, municipal enforcement of their bylaws. And we had reached out to the municipality several times. When we are sending memorandums, we let them know that, listen, please enforce your bylaws. So we decided, it doesn't help to sit there and just complain while not showing the municipality what difference there actually can be if they were enforcing their laws. And we know that most of those people on the streets are foreign nationals. We know that most of the people who are running those tuck shops that are unregulated are foreign nationals. So we just decided to send out a message to South Africans: come out, come clean your city, come clean your streets and make it look better, so that we can, show how our cities used to be. And that's exactly what we did. We started cleaning from Tuesday. And then on Friday, the cleanup continued. And, much to the delight of people who are foreign nationals, because automatically they assume that when we have a huge police presence, that police are obviously going to come after them for compliance issues. So that's when they decided to shut down all their shops, and we carried on cleaning. And those that are on the side of the roads, when we see that they're just sitting there, we'd ask the police, here are people who are not meant to be here, please can you check and verify their documents, etc. And they found that a lot of them are actually not documented and are not supposed to be in the country. And that's where the fear elevated from the foreign nationals, because they realized with this huge police presence that they feel like they are being targeted. So on Monday, our members came out as per usual to clean the streets. Suddenly there was a mob of foreign nationals who claimed that they are tired of this cleanup. They've respected the South Africans for too long, and they want to get back to work. They're not making money, and they started attacking South Africans. There's even a video of them beating up one of our members to the ground. A number of them have been injured, and of course they've opened up several cases and have gone to the police station as well. And that's where we are. So then there was an altercation where one of the people who was at the march at the time decided to steal a cell phone from one of the gentlemen. That gentleman retaliated to the guy and punched him in the face and hit him. Now, suddenly the stories doing the rounds is that that person was a foreign national who was attacked all because he's a foreigner, which is absolutely false. And, a lot of newspaper people, journalists are not even reaching out to get the actual story. That is a guy from KwaMashu in South Africa who was trying to take chances. And he unfortunately got involved in a violent altercation, which of course we do not agree with. But then people must stop lying and saying that this is a foreign national who was accused just for being a foreigner.
Is that the video? And I saw a few.
That's
there was
the one that's trending.
There was this one where
Yeah.
this person, in fact, was wearing a Manchester United football top.
Yeah.
That's why it was so clear.
Yeah,
So
that guy's from Kwamash. He's not a foreigner.
okay, but here's the thought, right? I mean, I hear what's happened, and you in whether it's a march or a protest, you can get theft, you can get people stealing, whoever they may be, right?
Yes, yes.
Isn't the problem, if I go back to the beginning here, isn't the problem that, as you said, you want to clean up the city? When you talk of clean up, you were talking about clean up from a dirt point of view. I don't know if you meant clean up from a documentation point of view, right? Because you said the council were not forthcoming, right? Isn't the problem then when you, and I'm going to use the word, take matters into your own hands, that it then it can spiral out of control? At some point, the intentions are good, and before you know it, it moves into spaces you even can't control.
But you see, that's exactly the problem that we have as a country, and it keeps escalating. And before you know it, we'll be told by foreigners what we can't and can't do in our country. Because you can't tell me that we can't clean our streets, because foreigners will feel like the situation is escalating that doesn't favor them. How do we owe foreign nationals who are not in compliance with our city bylaws anything? We don't owe them anything. If we want to see our cities clean and livable and healthy as they used to be before, then nobody can tell us that we're wrong for doing that, because foreigners are going to feel offended.
All right, I hear that, but what's the difference between what you're just saying, which I think many may actually give you a thumbs up for, versus, protesters, and I need to be clear who the protesters are. This is why I'm saying it's unclear. If the protesters were those that part of March and March, they were running on the streets in Durban, and it looked like it gave the impression of something being out of control. So just to help us clear that up.
There was no protest. As I said, the only time the situation got out of control is today. We started cleaning from Thursday. We did not hear anyone calling it a protest. Suddenly it's a protest because foreign nationals came out in numbers, and I keep repeating this, and I'd like you to take it for what I'm saying. Foreign nationals came out in numbers. They organized themselves in their groups to attack South Africans because they are tired of a cleanup that we were doing on our streets to keep them clean. That is what happened, and it wasn't a protest. It was a cleanup. The time it got chaotic is when people started going out in numbers, fighting and hitting South Africans, and they did that with security companies hired that are South Africans. So that's where the problem started, because we managed to find that some of them are using these walkie-talkies to talk to each other, where to find South Africans who are wearing March and March t-shirts and start beating them up. So it wasn't a protest. It was a targeted attack from foreign nationals on people who were cleaning the streets.
Okay. What's the status right now? Meaning, is there tension between supporters of March and March and some foreign nationals in the city of, Durban, Tegwini? Is there tension right now?
Look, I think there's always been tension. We need to be honest with that. It's not a tension that started because of the cleanup. It's a tension that's come from two communities that do not want to live together. That's what it's true. South Africans are being forced to live with people who are criminals, who are selling their children expired food, who are taking over their cities, their towns, who are rendering them useless in terms of labor because they're cheap labor, or just basically doing as and how they wish. And there's no community in the world that can be expected to be understanding and happy and loving of people that have been allowed by our government, by the way, to be themselves anyhow at the expense of the natives of the country.
And I take it I take it the point you're making is targeted against undocumented foreign nationals versus documented foreign nationals. Have I got that right?
Let me explain to you how we got to where we are. South Africans have always respected foreigners, have always had good relationships. 30-something years later, you can't say that we just xenophobic people. It's a very unfair assessment of the situation. But currently, I was even saying that if we had 500,000 foreigners, I don't think even South Africans would blink an eye. We wouldn't even care. We'd treat them like our brothers and sisters and be all lovey-dovey. The issue we're dealing with here is an immigration crisis, whereby people come into the country. If they get here, it's either they want to get our documents in the most corrupt way by using our corrupt Home Affairs officials, or they want to walk around undocumented. They commit crimes, they run away, they go back to where they are. They come in and they start assuming jobs that they're probably going to earn 2 rand for, whereas as a South African, the minimum wage is like 10 rand. And it's all these issues that keep building up. And the frustration builds even more because the people who are lawmakers, who are in parliament and all these places, don't relate to what is happening to people in these areas because they are not the ones that have to use these streets, these buildings, these hospitals, these schools, or they don't have to live with these people in these communities. They're not the ones that are living 10 people in one room in town or selling fried food to their children. So that's why the situation.
All right, let me just pause you. I think we're just losing you with bad sound. But as we just sort that out, there's a voice note, and hopefully you can hear this, Jacinta, from a listener who has a question or a comment that they wish to ask. Here it is.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, listen, I'm staying here in Durban. I go to town almost every day. I just want to ask a question to Jacinta. I see that March and March, although they are doing a very great job, but they are only concentrating on 2 streets of CBD. They are not even taking care of other places like Point, like Berea Center, Market, and others as well. So my question is, how are they going to achieve what they want to achieve if they only concentrate on 2 streets in eThekwini? Thanks very much.
Okay, got that. Jacinta, you heard that, right?
Yes, I did hear that.
All right.
And I just want to say, I'm just glad that at least he's acknowledging the good that is coming out of it. That is appreciated. And just to answer him, in terms of 2 streets, it's a matter of capacity. It's impossible for us to ask people because they're doing this from their own pockets. They're doing it, waking up every morning because they want to see the change in their country and do it with their own means. We're not funding in any way. It's impossible for us to call people and say, go and do 20 streets at the same time. If we had the means to do so, if we had the resources, the plastics, we buy plastic bags every day. We're spending almost like 1,500 rand per day to get plastic bags, masks, and gloves per day, and this is not something that we take for granted, but we know for a fact that it takes money for these things to be done.
I'm gonna interject you only because we're losing you with bad sound, but just the last thing just to you, and hopefully you can hear this very clearly, right? You said you approached the city authorities beforehand regarding the cleanup in that city, and they were doing nothing about it, right? What has been their response to what's happened in the city of eThekwini, Durban over the last couple of days?
Well, just for clarity, we didn't approach them for the cleanup. We approached them to raise concern about the state of the CBD currently. And then we did let them know before we started the cleanup that we started the cleanup, of course. But then we say that currently we don't have any communication or relationship with the people of the city. And we will just hopefully get a response because we've written to the mayor of eThekwini. We've asked for him to do a walkabout in the city and tell us exactly how all these shops belong to foreign nationals. What are the laws of the country when it comes to giving foreigners jobs and giving them businesses in the country?
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Only we're just losing you. That line's becoming worse by the moment. Jacinta Ngobese Zuma, thank you for your time. The leader of March and March. You may respond to what was just said from your. If you could be a supporter, you could be someone from the council, you could be a South African, you could be a foreign national. What do you make of these tensions that are going on, and how do we resolve it? How do we create a win-win environment?
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's do this. We're going to hopefully touch on the issue about where the IFP are in terms of their plans just now. But in the meantime, an issue we touched on about Amarensha, Joburg, outside the Checkers area. Many people shop there, where this person, because of that road rage, that 58-year-old, one person died. His wife was shot in the arm. He was shot, a couple of shots, died. I understand South African, living in South Africa, Pakistani national. His body has been sent back home, but his family are still here, right? But a 58-year-old man arrested in connection with this road rage accident or incident. Let's find out more about it in terms of developments in court today with Refilwe Mekwa, the SABC News reporter covering the story. Refilwe, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good day, Ashraf, and all to our listeners.
Yeah, I tell you what, there's been such an interest around this because it's road rage and people can relate to it. What then happened in court today?
Well, Ashraf, I think I must say that unexpected turn of events transpired today as the media waited outside the Johannesburg Magistrates Court for hours, I must indicate. And I think around 12 o'clock, that's when we were told that the matter is not on the court roll, and we're wondering why. Until the NPA came to us and told us that they've decided not to prosecute the 58-year-old who was expected to appear today on charges of murder and attempted murder, citing insufficient evidence. But however, they did emphasize that investigations are continuing. We do know that what transpired that day, Ashraf, as you've already indicated in your intro, is really a road rage incident whereby a 58-year-old ended up shooting the 48-year-old Pakistan national, and his wife is still at the hospital. Unfortunately, and the sad part is the minor children who also witnessed the incident. And as for now, we are told that they are just in custody with one of the family members.
Okay. So let's confirm. I mean, it's a horrible story. Absolutely, right? Let's confirm you're saying that the NPA did not proceed with the case. And I need to just hear that correctly. Are they saying end of discussion because of allegations of or stories of self-defense, or is that something... Am I missing something there?
It's definitely not end of discussion. However, they really didn't want to really reveal much. Unconfirmed reports are stating that the 58-year-old might have actually won the matter because of the video that was captured in self-defense. And based on that video, the person who started that so-called physical altercation and fetched the gun is still in hospital. So it remains to be seen, Ashraf, whether more arrests will be made in future. But definitely it's not a closed matter at all. Okay. Investigations will be continuing.
But to confirm, at this point in time, that 58-year-old man has not been charged, has not been detained, and not been arrested, nothing of that sort at this point in time. That could well change down the line, right?
He was arrested, Ashraf, yesterday. However, I must say that he's definitely not in custody anymore.
All right, so he's been released then. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Thanks for clearing that up, Refilwe Mekwa, the SABC News reporter covering the story of the Amarensha Joburg road rage incident. Tragic story indeed. What about the plans of the IFP next?
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So, the IFP should be having their national and provincial conferences, but that's been deferred. And the plan is, I understand, it's been deferred because of wanting to give priority attention to the local government election. Let's try and understand what that means and why with Zakhele Ndlovu, political analyst from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Zakhele, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, Ashraf, and also good afternoon to listeners.
Thank you. Does this surprise you? Because yes, I understand the need to prioritize an election, but wouldn't a national and provincial conference actually empower a political party in the build-up to an actual election?
Yeah, it's interesting because just last week we saw the Democratic Alliance having its elective conference. So the excuse that the IFP is using, that it is preparing for the local government elections, I don't think it's convincing enough, especially since I mentioned that the DA held its elective conference just about a week ago. And of course, this is not the first time that the IFP has postponed holding its elective conference. You would recall that back in 2024, after the national and provincial elections, the IFP also postponed its elective conference. So it's becoming common now for the IFP to use all kinds of excuses to defer their elective.
Well, look, whatever excuses they're using, they would like to think it's going to work for them. And will it work for them?
Well, it appears to be working for them, at least for now. Now, another interesting thing is that the leader of the IFP is someone who was never democratically elected. We know that he was anointed by the late leader of the party, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. So I think that they want to continue with that tradition of having leaders who are not really democratically elected.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Your line's becoming worse as well. Appreciate, anyway, the input that you've made. Thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse. There you are. So the IFP, no conference, national or provincial conference this year because all attention focusing on the 2026 local government election. In fact, question to you, how well do you think the IFP will do? A, in KwaZulu-Natal province, B, nationally. Where would the trajectory of the party go in these fast-changing times in this local government election year? 5:30, here's the news headlines with Greg.
In the headlines, the ANC set to announce a complete overhaul to its major regional structures in KZN. The SIU secured a court order freezing tens of millions of rands in luxury assets linked to an Eskom procurement scam. And an investigation is underway after a tiger leapt into the audience at a circus in Russia. More on that story is in other news at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's a backlog of traffic going into Germiston today on the M2. It's a crash down by Refinery Road under peak hour. It's pushing a queue all the way back through to Cleveland. Mike 1 from Houghton through to Boyson's looking quite heavy. Backlog on the M1 South approaching Soweto as well today. There's queues from Gordon Road heading down towards the FNB Stadium exit. Collision on New Road near 6 Road. If you're coming off the N1 North onto that section of New Road, expect a queue on the off-ramp there. And the N12 home through Benoni is quite slow. Queues from just after Atlas Road moving through to the Snake Road exit. Still plenty of traffic jamming on the N1 North through Pretoria today from John Foster Drive up towards Aborta Avenue. That's a crash and then a breakdown by Garsfontein causing delays. Solomon, Mshlangu and Linwood Road. Heavy traffic backlogs around some faulty traffic lights on that side of Pretoria East as well. Durban, if you're driving inbound from Pavilion or from Pinetown, actually, Paradise Valley, quite a queue. There's a breakdown on the N3. It's a stationary vehicle at Spaghetti Junction. That's pushing a queue right back to that M13 on-ramp. Umgedi Road and Inanda Road, both of those routes through the Springfield area, quite heavily congested towards the N2, and the N2 South's got a breakdown before Komashu, so coming through from Gateway, it's all backed up as well. Cape Town, truck crash recovery between Justenburg and Kraaifontein, so between the Justenburg exit and Brighton Road, there's only a single lane open. That's a massive queue coming in from the Stellenbosch exit today. If you're driving into Cape Town from Paarl, that's a really big backlog. Heading out, everybody's having a look at it. So from the city centre, it's jammed basically all the way through to Justenburg and all the side roads in the area up through for Santa Kraal and down through Justenburg to Stellenbosch, all very heavy with diverting traffic. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi, of course, your eyes are on Mamelodi Sundowns, right? And what happens next?
They are, and Mamelodi Sundowns return to Betway Premiership action tonight with little room to breathe in a packed run of fixtures. They host Stellenbosch FC at Loftus Versfeld Stadium, knowing that a win could take them back to the top with Orlando Pirates just behind them, but with a game in hand for the Brazilians. Meanwhile, Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that the key to navigating criticism during a challenging period at the club was to block out the noise and also remain focused on the work behind the scenes.
That kind of people don't really make my life. I live from the energy that comes from the ones that are important. And it's curious that you say, we didn't know if you would stay, but we all knew that I would stay. We all knew that I would stay. Me, my assistants, my club, my management, my players, we all knew that I would stay. The ones that wanted me out were not probably the ones that have power and capacity to decide. But look, I don't look at this moment as an individual achievement. I look at this moment as a club achievement, players' achievement. It's their job, their work, their high level of commitment, not mine. I just try to facilitate and not complicate nothing. And that's it. I live in peace. I live in a big, big, big peace. I'm already 54. I have to enjoy life. One day, life will finish for everybody. I don't depend on my day-to-day work. I depend on what I did many years ago. So my life is very stable, and I need to enjoy life. And that brings me the peace of existing as a human being that makes me just focus on the work. One day this journey will finish, for sure. Let's hope it's very far away from today. But until that day, I will enjoy every day because I live in a beautiful country with beautiful people. I love to live here, really do. My family loves here. I think people that are around me like us a lot. We try to create the right energy because that flow is also important to succeed.
Meanwhile, Spain remains world number 1 in the latest FIFA Coca-Cola Women's World Ranking, despite last week's qualifying defeat to England. The Lionesses climbed to 3rd, leapfrogging Germany, while the United States stay 2nd. Japan are the biggest movers in the top 10, rising 3 places to 5th. This is after winning the AFC Women's Asian Cup. Elsewhere, Sweden dropped 3 points to 8th. The Netherlands returned to the top 10 at 10th, and Canada edged up to 9th. In terms of South Africa, they have slipped 3 places to 58th. In athletics, Usain Bolt says that the rising Australian sprint star Gout must build a strong support team to stay focused and avoid distractions as his profile grows. Gout is already being compared to the Jamaican legend, with many in Australia tipping him as a future Olympic champion ahead of the 2032 Brisbane Olympics. The teenager, whose family has roots in South Sudan, is set for a major test when he makes his Diamond League debut in Oslo on the 10th of June in the 200 meters, and he'll also face a strong field including Olympic champion Tebogo Letsile. Now, Gout first grabbed global attention in December 2024 when he ran an impressive 20.04 seconds at the Australian All Schools Championship, marking him as one of the sport's brightest young talents. In cricket, Proteas woman seam bowler Tumi Sekhukhune says that they'll be aiming to wrap up their T20 series against India as soon as possible as they head to the Wanderers tomorrow. South Africa arrived in Johannesburg in high confidence after winning the first 2 of the 5-game series, and one more victory would give them an unassailable 3-0 lead with 2 to play. And Sekhukhune says that winning the series early would give them room to experiment a bit more and also just to see what works for them heading to the World Cup in England in June.
I think it's very important for us to, have a 3-0 tomorrow because, be preparing for the World Cup and, we want to take that momentum going into the World Cup. And obviously, we trying to, do things differently and see if they could work, different combinations, and see Sune betting up there, opening the batting. So I think those are the things that I think we are working towards in getting into the World Cup.
In motorsport, Formula One has announced a series of rule changes to ease concerns over the sport's new power unit regulations. The engines, which now rely on a near 50-by-50 split between combustion and electrical power, had drawn criticism from drivers who felt their skills were being diminished. 4-time world champion Max Verstappen even suggested that he was considering his future in the sport. The modifications are designed to let drivers push harder in qualifying and reduce the huge speed gaps seen in races when battery power runs out, a difference of up to 470 horsepower. Most of the changes will take effect at the Miami Grand Prix from the 1st of May to the 3rd of May. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. Ashraf, I guess all eyes will be on Sundowns to see them as they continue with their title chase. I think a lot of people are expecting a win tonight.
Well, you guess. And many may say, hey, when it comes to Sundowns, the sky is the limit Who else matters? Now, having said that, there's bound to be a response from someone with an Orlando Pirates stop. Thanks for that to me. We'll talk again tomorrow.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, so the SAFM market update 6 to 7 in for the week. Dudu Ramela. Dudu, hi.
Hello, Ashraf. Here's what you can look forward to on the show tonight. We're going to be speaking about the proposed public procurement amendments, with the submission for public comment being at the 15th of July. We look at the fuel levy reduction. That is coming to an end the first week of May. What happens next, you ask? Well, we'll find out from Citigroup, or rather hear what they propose should be done. We also look at insurance and why it's important for businesses as global uncertainty rises. And in our agri-feature this evening, we preview what you and I need to do to better preserve the environment. And our market watcher this evening is Chantal, but our market watcher at 17:40 is Mr. Henku Kriel, who is MoneyWeb's contributor. Hello, Henku. A rough day on the markets today.
Yes, Dudu, good evening to you and to Ashraf, and good evening to all of our listeners. Yes, a rough day on European markets and local markets, most definitely, but a very quiet day on US markets. Strangely enough, the Dow Jones at the moment completely unchanged. The Nasdaq as well hasn't moved, and then the S&P 500 is slipping just a little bit, and about 0.05% weaker, but they've still got quite a way to go, and quite a bit of trading left, still early in the afternoon on their side of the world. Then, yes, like you said, in Europe, the FTSE 100 lost quite a bit today. That's in London. It closed 1% weaker. Then the DAX in Germany lost 0.3%, and the CAC 40 in France lost 0.9%. And then here by us, the JSE's all-share index lost a bit more than just that. And it finished the day 1.3% down at a level of 118,412 points. The industrial index closed the day 0.6% down, the financial index 0.4% weaker, and the resources index 3.1% down at the end of the day. That's quite a bit. Some of the companies on the JSE that contributed to this very red day on local markets were Goldfields and Implats. They each lost 4.5%. DRD Gold and Mass 3.5% weaker. Anglo Gold, Harmony and Sibanye-Stillwater lost 2.3% each today. There were a couple of winners. Alphaman and Boxer, they each gained 3%. Tungela, Spar and Vodacom each 2% up. And Bytes, Bitcorp and Datatec, they gained 1.5% each. Then on the Forex market, the Rand is trading at 16 Rand 42 to the US dollar, 19 Rand 30 to the Euro, 11 Rand 77 to the Australian dollar, and 22 Rand and 19 cents to the British pound. And on the commodities market, the price of gold, $4,755 an ounce, platinum $2,055, and palladium $1,550. And then the price of Brent crude is sitting at $97 a barrel. And I'll finish this market update for us with the price of a Bitcoin, currently $75,850, which is also 1,250,000 Rand. Dudu, that's how the markets performed.
Henku, thank you very much for that comprehensive update. And that's it from us for now, at least. Ashraf, we're back with you at the top of the hour.
Thanks for that, Dudu. Yes, your show, 6 to 7. Do not miss that.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, as you know, no blow-by-blow live coverage of the Madanga Commission here on SAFM. But what we do have is a couple of things. We have an update at 11:30 every day, at 5 to 3, at 8 to 9, a full hour, and then now from 5:45 onwards. So let's recap what's happened today. Once again, the man in the stand, the witness was the Tshwane Metro CFO, Gareth Mnisi, and he's sparked up lots of reaction from his sense of confidence about the way he comes across, okay? So the Commission then continued questioning Mnisi on WhatsApp conversations with Sergeant Fani Nkosi. Now, as the proceedings continued, Mnisi's legal team then asked the Commission to give him a chance to respond to the best of his ability when asked questions, but also to give him enough time to do so. I wonder what the context may be of that, but listen to this.
Chairperson, Commissioners, Thank you for the opportunity. As a legal team, we want to address you very briefly on the following. And what we say with the utmost respect to yourselves, to my learned friend, and to the work that you do. We believe that to put to the witness that he's wasting time of the commission in she answers is unfair to the witness. And to edit his responses is equally unfair at the end of the day. Of course, you're entitled to agree as commissioner or disagree with what he says, and that is accepted. I think Chairperson or Chairperson Baloyi, you indicated that the only person of the BAC that's here today that can comment on the workings of the BAC is the witness. And yet we see that he's not given, in our respectful opinion, proper time to answer and explain what actually happened during the deliberation to come to this decision.
So the commission then continued with questions around Sergeant Nkosi and Mnisi, and centered around those WhatsApp conversations, and the man Mnisi believed was coming for him. Now, the suspended Tshwane Metro CFO, Gareth Mnisi, then had an exchange with the Commissioner Baloyi on how Sergeant Nkosi got hold of a tender document. You best listen to this.
So he didn't get it properly. It wasn't shared with him in a permissible way, in a regular way. Surely you must accept that.
I've accepted that, Commissioner, and I've agreed to that.
Yes, that's a simple proposition that's been made to you, that Sergeant Nkosi had possession to a tender-related document that he should not have had. That's a simple proposition that's being made. You must accept that.
Commissioner, I've accepted that. Okay, but if you had listened to the discussions, the inference was that Sergeant Nkosi received it from BEC directly. So
I'm reformulating. Sergeant Nkosi had access to a tender-related document that should not have been in his possession. You accept that?
I have accepted that.
And that suggests, or at least on the face of it, is a corruption already of the tender process. It is being muddied. Do you accept that? That a tender document that is internal of an incomplete tender assessment process is sitting with a member of the public, because that's what he is. It's sitting with a member of a public. That is problematic for that tender process. No?
Commissioner, I don't accept that, with all due respect.
Okay,
the content of this report that's here does not contain any sensitive information whatsoever.
No, it doesn't matter. No, from my question, it doesn't matter whether it contains sensitive information or not. It's a tender document or tender-related document. As a matter of policy, it should not be outside
I've agreed to that, yes.
of the municipality. That it is outside of the municipality with a member of the public in itself is an irregularity.
Mnisi then continues talking about, matters around payments. By the way, we'll get to that in a second. I can tell you, by the way, that South Africa's, we've got an ambassador now to the USA, but what about the ambassador to the United Nations? So confirmation that South Africa's ambassador to the United Nations in New York will be Mxolisi Nkosi, who's the current ambassador to the United Nations in Germany. Sorry, let me get that right, to Geneva. So from Geneva at the UN, he's now going to be the ambassador to the UN in New York. That's Mxolisi Nkosi. Right, so let's get back to Nisi talking about matters around payments.
Dlamini or Deputy Chief Dlamini, you tell him what needs to be done, he comes back to you. This way, what happens is you speak to Sergeant Nkosi. Sergeant Nkosi then conveys your message to Deputy Chief Dlamini. He responds to Sergeant Nkosi. Sergeant Nkosi then conveys Deputy Chief Dlamini's message to you. What's convenient about that process?
Like I said, ideally I should have got the contact details of the Deputy Chief. I didn't have his details at this point in time. He didn't have my details as well, obviously. But even if you look at what Sergeant Nkosi was doing, was just sending those messages verbatim as they were. So it was convenient for me because the matter was being attended to. But in hindsight, I do agree that I should have got his numbers directly and had the communications with him initially from the matter, when the matter was raised, Chair.
What then about Gareth Mnisi as well as Sergeant Nkosi on the issue of the City of Tshwane related matters?
And the reason I'm mentioning this, so that you understand why I'm mentioning it, it's because of everything Sergeant Nkosi has been doing. And everything he has been doing, which you considered that by the third or fourth time, it looked like he was trying to influence a tender which was being evaluated. And everything we have seen that he was doing, and the conduct that even you said was suspicious. So when I look at all of that together, and knowing that even on your version you thought he had misled you or was playing you at some point, you still engage him in these things. And it raises, to me, concerns. And I won't put it higher than that it raises concerns. That you knew at least by March, end of March, that he's trying to influence a tender that you are going to adjudicate. It's still being evaluated. And you found his behavior suspicious, although he never expressly said to you, I want you to rig this tender in my brother's favor. But you now know that he's doing all those things. And despite that, you still involve him in Tshwane matters. That's where, to me, the concern comes from. Thank you.
So then the issue moved on to the Tshwane Metro Police Department suspended Deputy Commissioner Umashi Dlamini. So the evidence leader, Advocate Matthew Cheskelson, then asked Mnisi why his communication with Umashi Dlamini happened through Sergeant Nkosi, as this gave an impression that they're doing something irregular. Listen to this.
Into the Gubis issues about invoicing and termination has the same hallmarks, that you're actually having very extensive communications, but there's no sign of them on either of your phones. All that one sees is your communications with Sergeant Nkosi and General Dlamini's communications with Sergeant Nkosi. And what I want to put to you is that why you are using this mode of communication with General Dlamini through Sergeant Nkosi is that you are engaged in activities that are irregular activities, and you don't want to leave a trace of direct communication with Deputy Chief Dlamini in relation to those activities. What's your comment on that?
Thank you, SC. I think firstly, I must respectfully strongly disagree with you. I'm not going to comment on other issues that you might have seen through other discussions that don't involve me. I'm going to focus on the matters at hand. And as stipulated earlier on, it was an issue of convenience. I did mention that. Also, an equally important point is that that channel is broken. I request for his contact details and I start dealing with him directly as a mechanism of avoiding the hindsight agreement that I said. I did agree that in hindsight, I should have asked for the contact details immediately.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. So we'll do it again tomorrow at the same time, but don't forget an hour of tonight, much more detailed from 8 to 9 here on SAFM of the Madlanga Commission.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Oh, should I tell you this? Top Billing is back, right? And it's even more spectacular than before. So join us as we reopen the doors to South Africa's most iconic lifestyle show, from breathtaking homes and world-class travel to the people shaping culture and success. This is where it all comes together. Mark your calendar. This new season of Top Billing premieres on S3 Thursday, the 30th of August. Did I say August? I must be crazy. No, it's much sooner than that, 30th of April at 7 p.m. And then you can also stream it live on SABC+. Top Billing is back on S3. Open up.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Right, let's talk indeed. There's this comment from you, which I will pick up. But before we get to some of the WhatsApp comments, we go to Centurion now, Maestro in Centurion High.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed, right? What's your point?
Ashraf, I think this radio station is giving too much attention to foreigners, to be honest. Because when foreigners are calling here and talking nonsense on the radio, you guys are always willing to entertain them because of this rubbish constitution that we have. But when government officials are there, you guys criticize them to say they're not doing work. So if government officials are not doing work and South Africans are complaining about the issues that they are facing on the ground, about lack of resources in hospitals, being attacked by foreigners or foreigners causing crime, how do you guys deal with it? I don't think you guys love this country enough.
But how do you make those assumptions? I mean, just to give you an example, I mean, you're saying rubbish constitution. That's your opinion. For some people, it's not so rubbish, right? On the other hand, we do have freedom of... No, but hold it. I need to talk. You've just spoken. That's your opinion, right? On the other hand, we've just had, and you said all these callers who called in, like you think when they call in, we screen them for their ID documents. We don't do that. Right. On the other hand, we've had a guest just now, Jacinta, who's very clear in terms of a position, and we certainly allowed her to express herself. And at other times, we'll allow foreign nationals to express themselves officially, that is, besides callers. Callers is a democracy. People can call in from wherever. So, I mean, the point I'm making is there's no way we do it to say give them a platform or don't give them a platform, as in fact we just gave you a platform. So I hope you got the point. We've given you a platform to actually voice your displeasure to giving foreign nationals a platform, and we've given you that platform, and I hope you appreciate that. Maestro, thanks for that. Let's move on. Ask about the IFP.
Ashraf, good afternoon, my friend. With IFP, I think I will go with A. Provincially, I think they will do good, they will do well, but nationally, they won't get anything. When it comes to municipal, they won't get anything. Only on provincial, yes, they will do better. Thank you. Bye.
So provincial, they'll do better, but how much better?
Yeah, Mr. Gara, on the issue of the Immarentia incident, shooting incident, where somebody died and the other one was not prosecuted for now, it really does not matter. What happened is somebody died, whether it was self-defense or not, it must be tested in the court of law. So I think eventually the NPA will prosecute so that the court can test the issue of self-defense or whether it was indeed self-defense. Otherwise, it cannot just be left. Somebody died. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, look, point taken. You're spot on. I think at this point in time, they said they're not prosecuting for now because they need to still collect further evidence, right? Something along that line. And you're right. The best way, because otherwise there's a debate about self-defense, and there's so many videos that effectively confirms that self-defense part, but it's not for me to do so. You're right. The court has to provide a definitive response to that, and that hopefully that'll happen soon, right?
How much longer will the government wait when they can see that there is violence coming up and there is going to be a war amongst the people of South Africa and the foreigners? Why don't they act on these things?
Well, listen, it's something I had a chat with even Mark about, our technical producer. Like this, I agree. This issue has not been handled well. It has not been handled well at all, and it continues not to being handled well at all. Mapale is saying, good afternoon, Ashraf. Does anyone know how many millions of South Africans went to exile during apartheid? I'm not sure what your point is. I wish, I have a sense you have the answer, and maybe you can tell us why.
Hi, Ashraf. Regarding this issue of your March and March and the likes, you know, when people are taking law into their own hands, this is what's going to happen. You know, the idea of saying, no, we're going to go up, beat up those foreigners. Those foreigners are also human beings. They will retaliate of some sort. So it must be discouraged at all costs for having people taking law into their own hands. We can't be crying about the rules and the laws and the regulations, and then we are breaking it ourselves. Thank you.
Point made. Certainly, I think certainly in the conversation I had with Jacinta and Ngombesi Zuma, there's no question about them being able to take the law into their own hands. They said that's not the case. They responded. But you're right. The problem is if you ignore council, you could be taking the law into your own hands. But they're saying council's not listening to them. Sure, man.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Yeah, it's a Winnie. The people were cleaning there, even women, and the town was very clean for the past 2 or 3 days. It was looking clean. Yesterday, the foreign nationals attacked the people, including women, in front of the police and the security. And that's why they related to the hours there. It looks clean, but I think the government is letting the people down.
The government is letting the people down. That's where I'm going to leave it. We don't intend letting you down, so please continue listening to the National Pulse, the diverse views we get. Let me emphasize that. There's no way that we have one strain of thought. Can you just imagine if that was all that happened? One train, that's it. No other opinions besides what's been agreed upon by all of us. You'll actually have one party as well, one political party, one view. That's it. End of discussion. Can't do that. This is the National Pulse, after all, and we reflect the pulse of the nation. Thanks for listening. Set your alarms now for 3 o'clock tomorrow so you don't miss it. 3 to 6, the National Pulse. Right now it's Greg with the news at 6.
Thank you again, Ashraf. A major overhaul of ANC's KZN structure